Yes, yes. Oh, that was bad.
Whoa, whoa.
Yes, yes, yes. Tis the Castworthy podcast, and we are back. I forgot how to do this, man.
It's a
Back off a
long time.
hiatus after a week's break, unplanned break. Um, I am
Convalescent leave.
sure. I'm. I thought Condoleezza was out of office. I am
I
Big
said
Steve, aka
convalescent leave. You were out because you were sick.
uh, Last of a Dying Breed on the Twitter machine.
Because
Joined
EJ don't know
today
how communications work.
by EJ and the VP. We took last week off, and one of us was sick, and that was me. I had the vids caught up to me finally, and apparently, when I'm sick, my co-hosts just don't think that the show must go on. Uh, so no show last week, but lots to catch up on this week, and we're here, 3-man group. How you guys doing?
Hey, let's go.
I'm hanging in there, man. How you doing? How did COVID go for you?
It was interesting. Um, it's crazy. Like, so I talked about a couple pods ago all the Amazon shit that I bought, right? And so
Hmm.
one of the things that I bought is a nose trimmer and an ear hair trimmer. You know what I mean? Because my nose hair sometimes I get that one or two that curl up around my outside of my nose and be itching and shit. So anyway, um, my nose hair trimmer came and I used it and I cleaned all of it out up in there, like baby's bottom, like when you manscape on a first date, and super clean. So that was on a Friday, right? So it came on Friday. I did that on Friday. Saturday, start sneezing and shit. My nose started running. I'm like, fuck, man, I should have never used that nose hair trimmer. All these fucking particles are getting past because I don't got no hair stopping it. Sunday it got worse. My nose started running even more. I'm sneezing a lot more. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Stupid nose hair trimmer, right? Um, and then I figured because I'm sneezing and shit, it's running down into my throat. Pause. And my throat started to get a little sore that Sunday. I'm like, damn, man, I'm gonna send this shit back to fucking Amazon. Um, and then Monday I woke up and I was getting ready for work and I felt a little off and shit. And then when I got out the shower and I'm about to get dressed, it was like I just got dizzy. Like I couldn't, like my body turned this weird feeling, just clicked on, like nothing, like turning on a light switch. My whole body just started to get sore. My legs, my joints, my knees. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me, yo? Call my boss. I'm like, yeah, I'm not coming in today, man. Test myself for COVID, nothing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe, flu or some shit. Tuesday morning, I woke up, tested again, negative. Tuesday afternoon, I tested again and ended up testing out positive and shit. But yeah, like that Monday and that Tuesday, bruh. That I thought I had the flu, based on what people say the flu symptoms are. Um, the runny nose and shit was like gone by the time everything else started to kick in. Monday, it was really like my back was hurting. I felt like somebody had kicked me in the back. Joints and shit was a little sore. And then like halfway through, like by that Thursday is when my smell went. Smell didn't go immediately. It shit took like 2-3 days after. Smell went. Here I am laid up in the room, got the AC on 77, 78, and I'm freezing. Feel like I'm sitting in an ice bucket and shit. But but that, I mean, ultimately that was the worst of it. It started to get a little cough and shit. But I think I kind of got like the baby COVID because I never really got a fever and shit. I didn't get diarrhea, none of that bullshit. It was just really the body aches was the worst part of this one, and I'm just now kind of getting my sense of smell back. But yeah, I guess being cooped up in the room and shit, wanting to get out is probably the worst part of it. Like when I'm in there, I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna catch up on TV, watch some shit, get some binges. And I just couldn't really concentrate on shit. Like first couple of days I was so tired of knocking out and shit. And then after that I was like, I just want to get the fuck out of here. I want to go go get some sun and you know, wish I felt better so I could use some COVID days and go peruse around the streets while I don't gotta work. But you know, it is what it is. Here I am.
Glad you're better and you stay disciplined during your quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to get nobody sick. I don't believe in that. So I was trying like so then while you're in there and you guys have had it, so you try to track back like, damn, where the fuck did this shit come from, right? And then the first thing I'm thinking is like, damn, yo, fucking nose hair trimmer, yo. They sent me a dirty used nose hair trimmer.
It had COVID on
then,
it.
then I was like, oh, maybe all them Amazon packages, driver or somebody was sick. But that Saturday I went to this Italian restaurant for a friend's daughter's birthday and shit. We ate there, but nobody else got sick, so that wasn't it. So like halfway through the week, I found out that a couple other motherfuckers at my job was sick, and
Mm.
I had a meeting with one of them that Thursday, and I'm assuming that he probably was the host monkey, and you know that kind of led to everybody else getting sick. Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
But Republicans are, they just be out in the streets and shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like you told us in chat that you had COVID, and then like 2 days later, I found out my homegirl from work had COVID. The one I talk to y'all about all the time, listens to the pod, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like, how you got COVID? Because she's like, I mean, she be on it, yo. Like she don't
She
fuck around.
disciplined.
Yeah, mad discipline, yo. And so I'm like, how the fuck you got COVID? And it turns out that her husband, like at his job, he rides in a truck, like going from like site to site for the work that he does or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
his partner got it. And he was like, yo, you sick? And the dude was like, oh no, it's just my allergies. But the
Always,
motherfucker
bro.
had COVID and then gave it to her husband, and then her husband brought it home to her. And then she got it. And then, I told you guys she got a newborn, like I think the baby's like 7 months now. She ended up giving it to the baby because she
Oh
she
no.
breastfeeds, and everybody in the house was sick except their son, who's like 8, and then they were all quarantining from him. And then as they started getting better, he got sick. I'm like,
Damn.
God damn, yo.
I didn't know you could get it from titty milk.
I don't think she got it from Diddy.
You muted
Who-
yourself in the middle of that. Oh man. But yeah, I didn't pass it, so that's good. But COVID cases are on the rise. I saw that on the news. Obviously, people are traveling like crazy. Like if you look at the airports, they're fucking delays, and it's just crazy right now. So that obviously is part of it. Joe in September said COVID was done, so people ain't wearing masks, people ain't taking precautions. Nasty motherfuckers is going to the bathroom and not washing their hands like they should be. Nobody's doing the 30 seconds even when they are washing. They're probably back to just rinse. It's my pee anyway. Like that's
Oh,
and and that's how it happens, man. Dirty surfaces and shit. But
it's a
but yeah,
virus,
man,
man.
back like I never left.
It's a virus, man. We having it and getting the shots right, following the science. It's hard to beat a virus. It's hard to not, contract something that's viral. So it's
Yeah,
just one of those things you just gotta have to do what you gotta do and get by. That's all.
right.
Yeah, no doubt. Thought I was gonna make it. Thought I was gonna be the one forever, like fucking Will Smith in I Am Legend. Once all y'all niggas turn to what them shits, zombies
Zombies.
from having COVID. I thought I would be the one, but caught up with me.
Hmm.
Nothing that a little Nyquil can't fix though. Nyquil and I
Ginger
had
ale.
some left. I had some left. Well, yeah, put some ginger ale, some tussin on it. I had some leftover cough mix
Ginger
syrup
ale.
from when Nikki had it and shit. So took some of that. Doubled up the dosage because I'm a bigger person, and I was up in there sky high. Yo. I was lit. That's probably what Lil Wayne be feeling like, yo.
I was
Because
just gonna say he was on your Lil Wayne.
yeah, it's supposed to be 10 mil. I went to 20 mil. I'm sitting in the fucking room like, yo, I can't even concentrate on TV right now. But
Yeah,
that's it, man. What you guys been doing in the last 2 weeks? EJ, I know I seen you been at some brunches and chilling with some line bros and
it's
all that
regular
summer
stuff.
fun.
Regular stuff. Nothing crazy. It's been hot in
Same
the
old stuff.
district. It's been hot in the city. Murder rates is up. Shootings is
Yeah.
up.
Is it seafood season out there?
It is crab season. Seems to be, but it seems to be a lot of the fishermen are getting crabs from places they don't
Oh,
typically
Or
get them from.
strippers?
They're getting they're getting crabs from places they typically don't get them from. Like that's a big thing apparently. So
yeah.
global warming is
You gotta watch that
affecting
shit.
everything.
Warm water.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
Make
Global
sure
warming is affecting everything.
make sure you gargle with salt.
I don't think that's how that works either. I
I'm
don't
no
think that's how
doctor.
that works either.
Gotta get that special shampoo.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, 42 years has worked for me. um,
But yeah, they're talking about getting crabs from New Orleans and well not New Orleans, but Louisiana area, and they're just, saying there's a lot of weird stuff going on as far as, the animals and how they're migrating this way. So global warming,
Mhm.
I would assume has something to do with this stuff.
It's
So
not global warming.
I was looking
climate
at
change, whatever you want to call it.
Climate change.
climate change.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
I was looking at
And
the
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Tomato, tomato.
No. The reason I made the distinction, EJ, is that I was talking to somebody recently, and I was saying that given the fact that they first started off calling it global warming, and then you had people on the right who were like, it snowed in December. There's no way that the Earth is getting warmer.
hmm
I feel like we lost years of potential research uh, 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 to potentially make changes to the way that we behave, the way that we treat the planet, etc. That could have potentially, slowed, the effects down, and instead of calling it, what it is, which is what we say now, which is climate change. The climate is changing, the temperature is getting warmer, it's making the weather get worse. In Houston, before, it was like they would have these 1 in every 500 year floods, and now every time it rains, they have a 1 in 500 year flood. You know, even this year here in Florida, we talked about this in chat a little bit during the week, where every year before hurricane season starts, the National Hurricane Center predicts, we think based on conditions, we're going to have about this many storms, this many will be named storms, this many will be major hurricanes. And then when this heat wave started, they adjusted all of those numbers up, you know, and we talked a few pods ago about even with hurricane season going from June to October 31st, now it gets so hot you could potentially start seeing hurricanes in November. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's things are getting crazy, man. And even like with you with the animal
Still
life, with just with fishing, people are going crabbing and they're getting crabs from non-traditional play. There's a story like 3 months ago about when the people in the Alaskan crab season went out looking for snow crab and king crab. They couldn't find any, and they were thinking because the water in the areas that they normally crab in is so warm that the crabs move further north, and so and so it's just even things like that is changing, how we operate as a people.
still global warming, motherfucker.
I was looking at the Weather Channel last week just to kind of see about those storms that were out there that were brewing to determine whether I was going to take a little vacation and the summer vacation and shit. And I saw this story about the ocean's current being impacted by the heat, which is what's making a lot of change here. They're saying that the current could eventually stop. It could be as early as 2025 if the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere doesn't start to cool, if it continues to get heated or stay as hot as it is. So if temperatures stay as high as they are. So with that, it could cause Europe to see temperatures 30 degrees lower than average, month over month, and here in the United States, 30 degrees higher month over month, and East Coast being more prone to hurricanes and storms. So hopefully, I mean, I don't know what you do now, right? Like, fucking atmosphere's already fucked up, right? Like, how do you fix this shit?
Right. I mean, that was part of when AOC first got elected, and she was pushing the what they called the Green New Deal, kind of going back to the New Deal that FDR passed in the 30s, with works programs and things like that. But they were saying Green New Deal for stuff for the environment, and under the Republicans took it and made it like a dirty word or whatever, and essentially what they were talking about in that was everything that we talk about and suggest for things to try to help with climate change, or all these, oh, we're going to do X and that's going to cut carbon emissions by 20% by 2060, you know. And scientists are telling us, yo, if we don't get this shit under control by like 2032, we may not be able to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so under the way that the Green New Deal would work, it was going to spend trillions of dollars and say this shit needs to be done like in 10 years. So it was going to basically just dead gasoline using cars. You got a car that uses gas, it's gone. It's done. And then they were going to give subsidies for people to be able to buy electric vehicles, and give government grants and tax incentives and things like that to help these car manufacturers switch from making gas cars to electric cars, and all like things like that. It was going to go all throughout the economy, whether it was cars, the way we farm, the way we travel, all these kind of things, to get things flipped over, where it was essentially like if to use a smoking analogy, okay, you smoke a pack a day, maybe you go to half a pack and then a quarter of a pack, and then you get on the patch, and whatever. They were like, no, fuck that, cold turkey, done. We're done with oil. But people fought it, resisted, and nothing ever happened.
I wonder if they could make electric, like, airplanes and shit like that. Like, I wonder if anybody's been working on that, because the amount of people that take private jets nowadays, and the amount of people that are flying, amount of flights that are running each day, I mean, that can't be helping at all, right? We could do all we want with cars, but if you still got fucking airplanes running all day every day, and then they're starting to run more flights, and you got more people and more airlines popping up, and everybody wants to get out and go. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's gonna help.
Well, I mean, I don't know if aircraft played that big of a role. I mean, you figure there's about 2 million flights a day, um, just in the United States. So, you figure maybe 10, 15 million flights a day. Whereas there are hundreds of millions of cars on the road a day just in the United States. And then you go worldwide, you're talking about billions of cars on the road. But they also say that the biggest thing that could affect climate change is the way we eat, factory farming. This is one of the things you heard people make fun of about climate change in the early days, because they were saying one of the biggest things that's in the atmosphere is methane. And a lot of that methane comes from cow farts, essentially. But because of the way we eat beef, and we eat so much of it, you have all these big, huge farms where they're just producing like literally shit tons of methane. You know what I mean? But people were like, oh, now they're trying to regulate cow farts. And it was something that sounds funny. And you, as a person who is an advocate for the environment or to do something about climate change, etc., now you sound ridiculous because they've made it seem like you're pitching to regulate the way cows fart, and that's not really what's happening, but it's a way to flip the debate, and then nothing gets done.
What the fuck do cows have in their body that makes their farts produce methane? Like I mean, if I eat beef, does that mean I'm farting methane too? Like that's because I fart a lot,
Well,
and
I'm
I
just assuming.
know.
I mean, I don't know like the science behind it, but I
I
assume
wonder if
that.
all farts have to do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, like farting is a gas, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Maybe
same
it's
way
just
when you breathe out, you're breathing out, carbon
carbon
dioxide. So
dioxide.
that's a gas. So it's just it's probably just one of those things. But you know what I mean?
Well, maybe Elon will get us to Mars. And now that we have that hearing, maybe the government will tell us what's going on with the aliens. Maybe they know something we don't know.
I
Right?
doubt it.
No? All right.
Yeah,
Whatever. Well, where do we go from here? Um, your man, Mitch McConnell was trying to play the pause game. He was fucking with Cameron up there, huh?
Yeah, savage for that. My man was in the sunken place. Like
Yeah,
the memes are
yo,
crazy.
it was bad. He looked like Get Out. Remember when the dude in Get Out? Yo, it was bad, yo. That shit was. It was kind of scary, Like you obviously you don't want to see anybody go through that. You know, um, but it looked like Mitch. For those who don't know, and I'm sure everyone does, but it looked like Mitch McConnell had like what appeared to be some level of stroke, whether it was maybe his blood pressure was up there and he was getting to stroke level or what, but um he was addressing news, I believe. And the nigga just stopped. Like it was like he was like, yeah, the nigga was big, pause. And he truly paused. Like he just stopped. It was bad, yo. Um and they had to help him, off of the stage. And but then afterwards, as he was walking out, somebody said, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. So it seemed like it was just something immediate in that moment, and whatever it was quickly resolved once he was off camera because he was able to walk out as normal, and I'm sure probably going to get seek medical attention and shit. But um, all of that to say, like VP said, man, these old people need to go, man. They got to get out of here, man. We can't have dudes that are just on the brink of you know self-destruction and and just death, if you will, running the country.
Right, man. And part of it is like he was at his weekly press conference and this thing happened. Some people were saying, oh, he had a mini stroke, or whatever, regardless of whatever happened, this dude is almost 80 years old. And
That's how I
you
felt
know
when I was on on the cough medicine, like
and
if y'all would have called me, I couldn't talk.
part of the reason why um um McConnell is still hanging around, right, is that one, you've had it to where, at one point politicians used to run for office and think, okay, I think I can serve. They would serve a few years and then leave. Now politics is looked at as a career. You know what I'm saying? So you have a guy like McConnell who's been in the Senate since the 80s, you know, and the real reason in my mind that McConnell's not leaving, because McConnell has been sick. You can look at him and see, so he walks fucked up. He looks bad. There's been times where he shows up with like bruises, like on his face or on his hands and stuff like that, and people think maybe he had a fall or something like that. And it's almost like his body is telling him, like, dude, it's time to go. You know what I mean? But the reason that McConnell is not leaving is because in the state of Kentucky, they have a Democratic governor. So if he steps down, the governor replaces the appointment. I mean, or replaces the seat. He appoints the senator, right? And what
Mhm.
McConnell actually did last year is he got the state legislature to pass a new law that says that The governor still appoints because that's how Kentucky's state constitution is set up. But the governor appoints from a list of one. They did two provisions. One, that you have to appoint a senator who's in the same party of the senator who has the current seat, right? And then two, they have to appoint a person who's from a list of folks that like this board will convene and like put together a list of like, let's say 5 people or something like that. And then the governor picks one of those 5 folks. And the reason they did that is because, the governor, that they can say, okay, you got to pick somebody who's the same party. Some Democrat just goes and changes parties, and say, I'm a Republican now. Then he appoints that guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they did that, to prevent the governor from appointing a Democrat to McConnell's seat, but these people say, oh, I'm serving, I want to do what's good for the country, da 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 da. But here we are with geriatric senators, serving. And before EJ gets on his bag about me being a hyper partisan liberal Democrat or whatever, right? This shit cuts both ways. Dianne Feinstein, the Democratic senator from California,
she like
is
90.
almost 90 years old. And for years, there have been rumors that she has early stages of dementia. And she doesn't do interviews. She doesn't meet with constituents when she's back home. And she just had a bout with shingles, and she was out for about 3 months, and she came back. And she seems lost when she's in the Senate. And on Thursday, they were having a vote for some to confirm a judge or a Justice Department official, something like that. And they're calling the roll to take the vote. So this is just a yay or a nay. And they get to her, and she starts giving a speech. And then Patty Murray, who's the Democratic senator from Oregon, leans over and says, just say aye. Just say aye. And she's like, huh? And then one of her staffers comes in behind her, chirps in her ear. And then she comes back like, wait, what? And she's like, just say aye. And she's like, oh, just say, okay, aye. And like, these are the people running the fucking government.
Mm. Yeah. And I
wouldn't say you're partisan at all, just for the record.
I have to think like 90, 80, 90. I don't care which party you are, you racist. Like, you're racist. That's how I look at it. And it might, whether it's true or not. Like, here's the thing. I feel like these people, Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, all them old ones, I feel like they're racist. However, I feel like the ones like Joe and the other ones are like fixed racists, right? So they spent some time as racists, and then now they're at a point, they're not racist anymore. I feel like they're at a point now where they're like, damn, that shit we did was bad. Like, slavery was probably not a good idea. I know I was all for it back then, but blacks are people. Like, I feel like that's where, when you have the government being represented by people that are 80, 90 years old, that's what I feel like. I feel like these people that are Democrats that are fighting for, African Americans and our rights and stuff like that, I feel like they're just like saved, if you will. And they've been transformed into non-racist. But at some point, all of them had some type of racist bone or racist interaction or family member around them. No question.
Yeah, people in Delaware used to talk about the older folks used to have a love-hate relationship with Joe when he was running things in Delaware. And I mentioned it before, because he kind of just sat back and allowed the funding of our governors to, go to University of Delaware and the junior college more than Delaware State was funded. And it's kind of one of those things like you're alluding to. It's not that Joe said anything or done anything outright that looked racist, but his silence was what people saying. His silence and his passiveness on not speaking, on behalf of our institution, that people used to have a kind of love-hate relationship with him, feeling that, he's just another good old boy. When you have a state like Delaware, when there's only one flagship state university, and your state gives the least amount of state funding to that school, and your state representative, who asks for votes all the time, but is hush on the issue, it some educators will really want to love hate thing for him. So I mean, to your point, these people that have been around for years, uh and watch these practices, while their family may not have ever got involved, and they might not have never done anything wrong, they largely probably could have been complicit, in the idea of it. So it could be some truth to that. Could be some
I
truth
mean,
It's
to
like
I
that.
Jerry
definitely,
Jones.
yeah, I definitely hear, what y'all say. I don't know if I would go as far as to say, Joe's racist. He said some questionable shit, no doubt. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
he's just a fixed racist.
A lot of questionable shit.
Yeah, he might not be racist at 80, but
No, I
at
got you.
about 35, he was probably in there with Jerry Jones looking at them dudes, 17, 18
But
years old.
I guess the thing that um and this is not like a Biden specific thing, but like to EJ's point or whatever. And this is where we get into the thing where EJ is like, oh, he's capping for these guys or whatever, or shooting them bail or whatever. But it's that, you know, I get what EJ's saying. He could have spoke out and et cetera, et cetera. But this is not something like this is a state issue. Joe Biden is a senator on the federal level. You know what I mean? So he can't control what the governor. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
but
could speak out and talk shit or
yeah,
whatever. But
yeah, but you expect, as a voter and a resident of that state, because you're running for votes in that state, so you indirectly speak on state things to get elected and to get noise and to get to where you are. And here you are in a position where, like we always say, they don't have any control, but they have the influence, and we always expect them to do something. We've seen it 1,000 times. We talked about it 1,000 times. They say, well, I don't have control of that, but yeah, I can publicly damn that act or lack thereof. And I mean, again, we're talking about something that spanned for years of his political career. So it's like, you get elected year after year, you come to our university for votes, but you don't say anything. So it's bullshit. Like,
no, I understand what you're saying, EJ. The point, I guess, the point that I'm making is that like this, we talked about a situation similar to this when I can't remember her name, but it was a black woman who was attempting to challenge Elijah Cummings up in Maryland for his congressional seat before he died or whatever, right? And her whole argument was, oh, there's parts of Baltimore where it's like rat infested, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, And you have people who say, why didn't Elijah Cummings do anything about this? And it's like, this guy is a congressman. You know what I mean? He's not the mayor of Baltimore. He's not the governor of Maryland. You know what I mean? He represents this one city's interest at the federal level. You know what I mean? And so but I feel like it's easy for people to get kind of trapped in that thinking of saying that this thing is happening in my state. This person is a representative of my state, and then saying therefore it's maybe not their fault, but they're not doing anything about it. You know what I mean? And you can't say like, oh well, my, the water in my neighborhood sucks, and therefore the guy who's the property tax collector needs to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not his responsibility.
I don't know. I think we pick and choose when it's applicable, because when there are other issues, we have state issues, we expect, whether it's state or federal, to kind of be in concert. We know one has jurisdiction over one thing, another has jurisdiction over another thing. But when it's an important issue, we expect the people with influence to say the right things to kind of get the wheel moving. And
Right. And,
that
and, and I
just
don't
didn't.
disagree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we pick and choose depending on the issue when that's applicable. When it's for the black school, Joe's not really responsible for that. But when it's some other shit and we need influence and we need Delaware to do better, Joe, get in there. You know better. Come on. Nah, come on, man. We cherry pick when it's good for the goose versus come on. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I think if you're a representative of a state, then you should have some vested interest what goes on there, whether you're at the federal level or not. Like, you may not be able to change it. You may not be able to snap your fingers like some people think, or present it, but you should have some type of influence to have those conversations or get behind closed doors or make a statement. I think is more what EJ's alluding to, like at least come out and be like, yo, let's get some money for the niggas. you know um at least give us something. But whatever, it is what it is. That's water under the bridge. I mean, it clearly didn't stop the trajectory of his career. you know um because he's now at the highest office that one can hold, besides God, of course, right? And right, VP.
Oh man, yeah,
um
yeah.
sh- so yeah, so McConnell paused on us. Hopefully he's good to go. While we talk about health scares, Bronny James,
Feinstein,
man.
don't
Feinstein.
leave her. Diane Fine, don't leave her out. She got to go
I
too.
don't. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. All of them need to go. Like, there needs to be, hey, once you hit retirement age, 62 and a half, you got to go. Like, you have to retire. Like, you have to be
Yeah,
replaced. Maybe they need to do something like that, because I mean, listen, there's people at 70, there's people at, like, my mom is about to be 70 and she's clear thinking 100%. But
right.
she should be spending time like traveling, and you never know what your body's gonna do. You know what I mean? You need to be enjoying those years of your life, and if nothing else, spending time with your family and your kids, because you don't know how much longer you got. And
I
so
wouldn't even take it that far, Steve. I would say like once you get to a point to where you start to decline, like mentally, cognitively, it's time to move on. And McConnell seems to be at that space. Even Biden seems to be at that space. Dianne Feinstein is clearly in that space, right? Now you got a guy like Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders, 80 years old. He seems to be rocking on all cylinders. You know what I'm saying?
sometimes
You
he be
know,
misfiring though. Bernie just be
but
he just be spouting out at the mouth, yo.
you have a guy like Chuck Grassley, senator from Iowa, who's like 91. He's like 90 and he just got reelected. You know what I'm saying? Like in 2022. And he's talking about serving his full term. Like these can't be the people running the country, The people who, you know, uh, 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 they're showing up to work and they got on a different pair of pants from their blazer, and it's like, dude, like, come on, yo.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about? It's
not only
fashion.
not only the mental aspect or the physical aspect of it, but again, how can we as citizens, really expect someone of that age to represent what we as a people
Mhm.
are going through and feeling, like
Big
at
facts.
90 years old, how are you empathizing with me and my need for student loan debt to disappear? You're like, huh? Like, or
Mhm.
the technology stuff and
That's
everything
the
that's
big one I
going
was about
on.
to say. Mhm.
Like, how do you, as a representative, you used to be in a position where, yeah, in the 60s, you were a mother of three in the 60s, and you know what it feels like to be a mother of three in the 60s. How do you now relate to the mother of three in 2023 when you're great grandma now? Like, so
Mhm.
it's crazy. It's absolutely
Right.
crazy.
Right. Like I watch I'll get to the bingeables, but I was watching a show called Ghost while I was in quarantine, and it's on CBS, but it plays on Paramount Plus. But you guys would so basically the gist of it, there's different ghosts that are from different eras of time, and one of them to EJ's point, is from years ago, like the fucking 1500s and shit. And so when they be talking about stuff, the more recent ones that have died, they talk about, having voting rights and shit like that. And she's like, you shouldn't, you're not even, you shouldn't be leaving the house. You shouldn't be able to drive. You shouldn't be leaving the kitchen, because she kind of lives, that's what she knew when she was alive. And that's kind of what these people like. How can someone that's 70, 80 years old, a female, or in Congress or in the Senate, relate to a 20-year-old today that has to do OnlyFans to make ends meet? Like, you can't. I mean, it's a little bit different. I mean, they probably had sex work back then, but it was actual sex, um but it's just, you, like you said, you can't form a connection. I can't form a connection with an 80-year-old fucking senator. There's no way we have anything in common besides maybe our skin color. We might like sports and shit, but when you talk about, just from the aspect of life, we live totally different lives. There's no way, no possible way. um so, but yeah, some of that needs to change. But what on the topic of health, man, I'm just kind of transitioning away from that to Bronny James, LeBron James' son, man. We want to send all of the best wishes to him. Um, those who may not have followed this week, or actually, we'll go back even further. This year, he committed to USC to play basketball for them, and apparently they were, at practiced, or pickup at school this past week, and he went into cardiac arrest, passed out. 911 was called. The world that we live in today, the 911 call was fucking leaked and came out this morning. Shit's crazy. Um, like, there's just there's no no privacy in this world no more, yo. And people are gonna always sell that shit. But they came out, and he was rushed to the hospital via ambulance. I think Friday, if I'm not mistaken. They said that he was released, and then yesterday a video was put out by LeBron James of him playing the piano at home, and all of that. But like, that shit's got to be tough, yo. Like, to be, especially for like Bron, right? Like, LeBron, he spends so much time away from his family, right? During the season, and I'm sure he spends time in the off season with them, but he also spends time, you got to spend time with Savannah, and they got to, do things, right? And he's got business to run and shit. Um, so to get that type of call, like, and who knows, like, if he was on the road, anywhere other than California, makes it a tough situation, because now you got to try and get back to your son. Like, if we know that LeBron is always father of the year. Like, you can always look at this guy and tell, like, he's father of the year, at least from a sports standpoint. And you know, I can only imagine, like, for him to get that call, what could have been going through his head.
I'm gonna take it a step further in the sense that, this guy has afforded himself, a great life. I mean, everything is almost perfect. And when you have your son away at school doing one of the things that comes easy, it's a child's game, and it's the love of his life. It's the love of our lives that we share as the three men in the family. And something like this happens, it's like you feel like you've done everything right for this one thing, inexplicable thing that happened to your son. Like, it's not like he's the bad apple child. He's out in the street running around doing all the opposite things he was groomed to do. Like, this is your son's life and love and lifelong dream, and he's doing what you set him out to do. And then something like this happens, and it's like, what could you have possibly done to prevent it? Well, nothing, you know. So it's a feeling of powerlessness that he's gonna feel. Like, it's scary, and it's like it's nothing he can do about it. It was nothing he could have done to prevent it. I mean, this kid is a top tier athlete, and it's just, it's one of those moments for a guy that has everything at his fingertips to be brought right back down to humanity, for lack of better words. So I mean, it's a scary thing. And crazy thing, USC had an athlete last year that had the same thing happen to him, but I believe he was a soccer player, but I'm not sure. But yeah, a lot of kids in school these days, man, it's seemingly happening. That they're going down, and who knows what's going on, but it's definitely scary.
Mute. Yeah, I
Sorry.
think Go ahead.
Nah, yeah, man. It's definitely scary. Like to EJ's point, you do everything that you can do, and this kind of shit still happens. Um, but
How do you
I'm
have that
glad he's
conversation with him and tell him like if I'm LeBron, like yo, I love the game of basketball, but there's nothing nobody, and we had this conversation all week about doctors saying what someone can and can't do.
Mhm.
I'm a fucking billionaire. I'm a billionaire. You ain't never got to worry about doing that. I know you love the game. I love the game. I'm gonna need you to sit down somewhere. Like, how do you have that conversation with him? Because that's what I would be doing.
I mean, I like you said, we talked about this in chat, and I think like talking about not playing basketball anymore, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because we don't know what caused this, right? Because it could be either the overworked athlete kind of thing where he's just going too hard and his body basically says, okay, it's time for a break, and if you don't want to take one, I'm going to make you take one, and or is it something that he's just had forever, but now that he has gone up a level, because even though he was playing basketball at a high level through the private school and the AAU and all that kind of stuff he was doing, I'm pretty sure, like, getting ready for camp or at camp with USC is probably another step up to what he already was doing. You know what I mean? And then it could have made, this underlying issue present itself. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure they're probably doing workups on him now to figure out how did this happen, and is this something that's going to impact his career? I mean, at the end of the day, they have to decide, him as an individual, he's an adult now, whether or not, if the doctors are telling him, no, this is just a one-time thing, as long as you are doing this, then you're going to be fine, you have a normal life, you can play a full career. And then he has to sit down, and think within himself and with his family to decide, if he's gonna continue to play. And then also teams will have to make that same judgment of, do we want to sign this kid knowing, that he has this issue, because sometimes it just depends. I mean, Chris Bosh had a heart issue with the Heat. He played what, 10 years before it ever presented itself. And then all of a
Jeff
sudden,
Green,
boom, he's out of the league just like that.
Jeff Green,
So
still playing. Had a hole
yeah,
in his heart.
right. So, you just never know, what's happening with somebody under the surface. And, at this point, I mean, we're a couple of days in this story. So, you gotta let the work happen and then just see what happens. But I think it's a little premature to say, like, consider to not play ball anymore.
Yeah, from that standpoint, absolutely. I'm talking from a father standpoint. Like from a parent standpoint, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, you had a good run. You know what I'm saying? If I'm broke, well, I mean, if I'm not broke, like if I'm broke and there's opportunity, like if EJ would have stayed on his trajectory and something happened, like I'd have been like, hey, keep going, bro. you know, but
Get your ass back on the horse.
yeah, but Bron's a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you love the game, play it recreationally. Like that would be my approach as a parent, right? Obviously, you're gonna have to allow your kid, who's like you said now an adult, 18 years old, um, to make their best decision. They got to go on and live their life. But from a parent standpoint, the first thing that would go through my mind is like, Doc, what's the chances? Anything more than 0.01, and I don't want my kid playing no more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, for LeBron though, it's gonna be tough because you got a kid who's you've been teaching his entire life to have his own mind, to be motivated. He's gone to the best schools. He has a great education. He's a forward thinker, all of these things, and he's following in your footsteps. And you know how much you love the game, and this kid loves it just as much because you passed it down to him since he was born. And it's gonna be very hard, to stop that kid from doing what he loves to do. Because even if you say him playing recreationally, illogically, he's gonna be like, why would I do that? And I could just continue to do what that was doing. You know what I mean? So it's a tough thing, especially at that level. And you're talking about someone who reached the pinnacle almost to where they've always wanted to be. That's kind of tough to look at your son and tell him you got to kill his dreams, and say you can't do this no more. You got cats that are like, hey, if I go, I'd rather go like that. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. It's a tough conversation he's gonna have to have, depending on
Yeah,
what
Mhm.
is actually going on.
I mean, it'll definitely be tough, but again, like I said earlier, he's an adult, so then they can definitely have the conversation as a family, but he'll just have to make his own decision, and it's possible the decision could be made for him. Like I said, with USC could come back and be like, you know, we think we're gonna go a different direction. Maybe
Yeah,
he can't get into the league. He tries to go overseas, and teams say, nah, we're gonna pass. So you could have the decision made for him, but the first step is just to figure out like why did it happen, and,
what's
and then
going
kind
on?
of go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah. I
got I got
mean,
to research who it was last year, but they had an athlete in some sport where they had the same thing happen last year at
Hmm.
USC. So
Mm,
I don't know if the kid is back to playing or what might be going on, but yeah,
yeah.
USC's been having to deal with it lately.
I think the decision could be made either way. Like it could
yeah.
be made from the doctor standpoint that says no, no more, or you could have a bunch of doctors that come in and be like, nah, it's good. It was, heat exhaustion or dehydration and all, with pair that with the supplements and all of that. That's what probably
Hmm.
led to it. So
Right.
pre-workouts and shit like that. Like hopefully, but nonetheless, right? We wish the best for for him,
Definitely.
um as we would with anybody else.
Definitely.
Couldn't
You know,
imagine to be in somebody's spot.
right. And before you transition us away from Bronny, Steve, let me, um, same conversation, different topic, and on a more lighter note, we want to get y'all opinion on this. Since LeBron is on his trajectory of trying to become the GOAT. Some would argue he's already the GOAT. Either chasing Jordan or passing him. Should Bronny no longer be able to
You just gonna leave
play
Kobe
and
out the conversation?
should Bronny no longer be able to play in the NBA, who do you think is a prime target uh uh for whose wife Bronny should be smashing?
um Maybe Gabrielle Union. I mean, Larsa. I don't know who got a bad wife in the NBA right now.
I got nothing.
I thought you
Nope.
would like this topic, EJ.
Nope. Nope.
I Well, he's always got Bryce, right? Like that's that's the bright side for LeBron is he's got
Wow.
Bryce who looks like he looks like he's
Uh, Derek Fisher's wife, Matt Barnes' old girl. I don't know.
Matt Barnes, old Gloria. She was fine, bro. She was fine. Um yeah, man. Listen, man.
That's crazy.
Bronny's gonna be fine. Plus, he like
That's
white
crazy.
girls, so
Yeah, I
it
can't I
couldn't
can't
be
tell with
Gabrielle
y'all,
Union.
man. Like
Uh,
some mornings y'all come here, y'all toxic as shit, and other mornings y'all trying to play Saints.
no, we getting to it. I just didn't expect that one. I mean, speaking of Larsa, talking about she was traumatized that Mike said he didn't approve. Bitch, you met my son at 12 years old. Fuck you mean I approve? You're nasty.
Eh,
You're nasty.
you didn't
Yeah,
really, but
12.
they did. There was no context in that. Like it was a reporter who threw out a question. MJ said, "No, I don't approve," and that's it. He don't like that.
No, he
He could have
screamed that
meant,
shit.
yeah, but he could
No,
have
he
meant he don't
screamed that
approve.
shit. He said, no, I don't approve.
But I know what he
but
said. But
but
he could have meant that he didn't approve of Marcus smashing Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. Like not the fact that they were just, relationship, but more like, yo, I I would expect my son to have a little bit more character to not
I mean,
do that.
in
but
this
Steve,
particular situation, all of that is a package deal. Like It's not like
Right.
Marcus just met this older lady and they fell in love. Nah, you've known him since he was 12 years old. This is my
Right.
teammate's ex-wife. This is my son. I already have beef with this guy over a documentary in our career. Like both of y'all, this is just not cool. Like not cool.
Yeah.
Not to
And
mention, didn't she date one of her son's teammates at one point? She dated one of her son's teammates that was on the Lakers.
Well, well, she well no, she dated Malik Beasley. Let's not make it sound like that. She dated Malik Beasley, who played for the Timberwolves at the time, who then went on to play for the Lakers, and the Lakers drafted her son. But it wasn't like she was like, "Yo, that's my son's teammate. He looked good in them shorts." That it wasn't like that.
You
but
smashing a dude, you smashing a dude your son's
In
age
the
that
NBA,
wound up becoming your son's teammate.
right. So
I'm just saying.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that part of it, right? Because I mean, especially with the context that
yep,
Steve added, like that, that's apples and oranges to me. But with the Jordan son, what is his name? Marcus, I think his name is. I mean,
Marcus,
he's
yep.
not
Marcus. Yeah,
he's Jordan's son. He's not famous enough. He's just like Denzel's son. So
that's true.
so with Jordan's son, right? The like to EJ's point, you know what I mean? She's known this guy since he was a child. Like think about when we watched Game of Thrones, right? And in the final season, when they show Arya naked, and we're all like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? like we've seen this girl when she was like 8 years old, and it's like, yo, whoa, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, she
nah.
also still looks 8 years old. Like
It's
that. Like at
But
least, at least.
that's how I
I
feel
don't
about
know.
that rapper Lotto. Because I remember when the kids used to watch Jermaine Dupri's rap game. I remember
I
this
don't like
girl was
Lotto.
12, 14 years old up here rapping. Now she got her cheeks out doing all this crazy shit. And the girl looks good, but I mean, I'm like, yo,
Lotto's
I
trash.
watched you grow up. Like,
Give me some Ice
mm,
Spice. I'll take Ice Spice over Lotto.
like it just like for me as
this
a
nigga
like
just
just
went that way.
as a consumer, of media, like just seeing that was like, okay, I understand that she's of age now, but it's like, yo, like I've been with this character since she was a little girl, and it's
Oh,
weird like seeing her nude and shit. You know what I'm saying? So like for Larsa Pippen, it's like you've known this dude since he wasn't even a teenager. He was a preteen when you met him, and now you dating him. Like come on.
That's a little
And
weird.
and
well, she alleges that she never met him. Like as a kid, she'd spent. Now, I'm not. I listen. I'm not. I wasn't
She's a
born yesterday. I was
fucking
born in the
liar.
evening. I was born at night, not last night. But she alleges that she's never spent time at Michael Jordan's house when they were teammates, and like they didn't really get together like that. So she didn't know him when he was a kid.
She's a
Allegedly, right?
goddamn liar.
Yeah, I don't
She
believe that.
probably is. She hangs out. She used to hang out with Kim Kardashian. Like, what are we expecting from someone that hung out with Kim Kardashian? Like, Larsa Pippen kind of started. She was early stage BBL, plastic surgery business. Like, if you look at some of the older pictures of her, I went out to Reddit and found some of them. She don't even look like the same person no more. Like,
Mm.
it's what do you expect from that? Like, and not only that, right? You have to think of it like this: it's publicity. She's like, do I think that she's invested in him? Like, do I think that she has any type of like affection for him? I don't think so. I don't even think it's that. I think she's like, fuck it, I'm gonna use this name to catapult my career, the whatever's left of it at my age, because she's damn near 50. You know, that now they got a podcast, like, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that. I think that's where she's at. You know, that Scotty money wasn't long, pause, because look at we saw what happened to him with his contracts, and again, those contracts were much smaller back then. He didn't really have the long-term shoe deals. Like, that money's probably drying up with the lifestyle that she lives. She did the little basketball wives shit and got a couple dollars there, but nothing compared to being Michael Jordan's sons. Look at how much they're in the news right now.
Yeah.
It's
Didn't she have some
marketing
type of other
genius.
didn't she
She's a
have some type of other
marketing
business?
genius.
Didn't
Oh
she have some
yeah,
other
she
type
does.
of business?
She's like a major, or a partial owner of one of those, forget, tiny, some clothing line or some shit. Like, she
Uh,
Mm.
she does some big shit there. Um,
but for
and
her to
I
come
I think
out
she had a sex tape.
for her to come out and say she's never come across this kid. Like I just immediately went back to how families watch stuff in the press box, the championship runs, the planes, the
Right.
parade. Like,
Well, but that's a
come
different
on.
day back in the 90s. Think about it. Like I'm sure, listen, I'm sure it was, I'm sure they met. But it ain't like today. Like today, like if you watch quarterback, Var, you started. I don't know if you finished it, but
I finished it.
so you saw how like Patrick Mahomes' wife was in there, and his brother was in there, and like in the box and shit at the Super Bowls and stuff like that. Like I
Mhm.
think today is different than then. Like I don't think that you never really heard of
How?
people bringing, because there wasn't as much access. People weren't, you didn't hear kids being, again, and maybe it was because we didn't see it, but we never really heard of people's kids back in the 90s flying jets across country to go to their parents' games, like whether it was the finals, whether it was anything. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I mean
maybe
they had the home games though,
well, yeah, I mean, but
Yeah,
and it ain't
and
like the Super Bowl.
the
You're
team
away for the Super Bowl,
barbecues.
right? Like
Like,
I
no,
I
there's
just
no
think that
fucking way.
it's unfathomable that they never met. Like I can't imagine a scenario
No
that they
fucking way.
even if it was just once. I just can't imagine that there's a scenario where they never met.
I got a shooter
And
bet.
if you watch
Nobody's come out and said otherwise, so I'm taking her word for it.
the show, and I'll talk about this in Benji's winning time about the Lakers. I
Oh, the
mean,
Lakers joint.
yeah, I mean, even in that time in the 70s, you saw how that 79 80s team hung out together, spent time with each other's families. Magic had like a barbecue at his crib in Michigan, and like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? She probably made the little nigga a plate at one point. Like, cut the shit, yo. She been making this plate since he was 12,
Yeah.
yo.
She might have. She might have seen him younger than that. She might change his diaper and been like, oh,
Oh,
about
got one.
18 years.
Oh my
18
god.
years from now, if that thing keeps multiplying.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Listen,
gosh.
man.
Have you potty trained him yet?
But listen, but it's Larsa Pippen. Like Larsa Pippen done fucked Future. She fucked Malik Beasley. Like, what are we expecting from this? It's like if we look at like Kim Kardashian, she get another basketball player. We're like, oh man, she's got a thing for basketball. We fucking know that. There's like that's what Kardashians do. That's what they do. Like and she hung out with them. So I don't expect nothing less. And for him, he's a cornball. Like Marcus is a cornball. I remember when he was playing at UCF, and they would come in after wins and be at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he was just super cornball back then. And I think he looks like he still is. You see her; she's always on. I follow her on socials and shit, and she's always like filming her stories and shit. And then she'll like turn the camera to him, and he's like the extra, like like the background dancer. It doesn't even look like a genuine relationship, yo. It really don't. I think she's just a marketing genius.
Yeah. Like Adam 22.
Um, like Adam 22. But without glossing over it, VP took us to the lighter side. I was gonna say to the heavier side. When we're talking about Bronny, Gilly the King lost his son, in Philly, his oldest son, Cheese, in due to gun violence. So, it's just like being a parent, man. Like you just can't. I couldn't fathom it, yo. I would lose it. And in a situation like that, right? Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Shit's crazy, man.
Somebody, this dude, Hassan Campbell, who's a podcaster, and I don't really know his backstory. He's a New York dude who's been around the industry in some form of fashion. And he's been in a lot of controversy, but he was saying how Gilly is all at fault for this because his son was still in Philly and you got millions of dollars. And I was like, man, that's one of the nastiest things anyone could say in that moment, and it being so fresh. Like, that's just crazy, and just understanding that his son is a rapper, you know what I mean? So naturally he's gonna be in his home city trying to build up his craft. Granted, Philly is super dangerous right now with 700, violent shootings already. But I mean, as Gilly, being from that city, being from North Philly, he actually lived on the same block as one of my ex-girlfriends back in the day. Um, being from North Philly and expecting to have that love, you don't ever think this would happen. But the other bad thing about the culture, quote unquote, today, they say, the rappers, they damn near, being in their hometowns is just as bad as anything else. And I mean, this is just it's
These kids don't
sad, man.
respect
And
shit no more, man.
and he was shot in the back, no less. Shot in the
Yeah, these
back.
kids nowadays, people nowadays don't respect. I mean, listen, we are living through some times, yo. We're living through some time. Look at inflation. Like, yo, my car insurance just went up like crazy. My house insurance, like everything is going up, right? Life, the cost of living is going up. And it ain't like it used to be. Like people used to respect the elders. People used to respect the people that came before them in their city. It ain't like that. You know what I'm saying? Just because you hear, all right, appreciate you putting the city on, but guess what? I need to eat too. And the timing, is it bad? Poor timing for him to have said something like that? Absolutely. But like anybody else, man, you can't be in the middle of the hood. You can't be in the hood all the time. You rich, get out of there. Get out of there. These basketball players that be out there that be, and these dudes catching cases, Javante Davis that be out there in Baltimore, yeah, they got to get the fuck up out of there. Like there's nothing there for you. Nothing. You can make your appearances. You can pop in here and there, but to be there regularly, like Gilly lives there, nah. That's too much,
I
bro.
don't
Go
think
go
he
live in
does.
the outskirts somewhere, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember I saw a thing on Randy Moss a year. This is when he was still he was either still in the league or he had like just like recently retired or something like that. And they were saying like how like in the off season, you don't live in LA or Miami or New York or Philly. You know this motherfucker lives? Boca Raton.
Mm.
Average age like 72.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? No, he was like, he goes out for a run. Nobody bothers him. Nobody's like, yo, can I get a picture? Can I do da da? You go to the grocery store. He's just some black dude and people know who he is, but he's living around people in the golden years. They're just, like, hey Randy, like, hey, how you doing, Miss Johnson? Da da da, keep it pushing, and he was like, he loves that shit, but also Randy's country as hell, so he probably grew up in a small town, to begin with. So that kind of thing probably was nothing for
In
him,
West Virginia.
even as a young guy. And I'm not saying like guys have to isolate themselves to that extent, you know what I mean? But and it's sad that we live in a day and age that these people can't go out and enjoy themselves, etc. Right? But you have to take the world as it's presented to you. I didn't make the world, you know what I mean? And so why are you at a fucking craps game, at 1 o'clock in the morning in the hood, or in these other places,
Mm-hmm.
that are just prime candidates for somebody's shoe getting stepped on and a shootout happens or whatever, like yo, you've progressed beyond that, so get the fuck out of that situation.
Yep.
It's like how the
100%.
it's how the brother from the Migos, lost his life.
Take off.
Yeah,
Right.
y'all they out there shooting dice, and people
Yeah.
gotta
Why you
realize
listen, man?
it's it's, it's not
It's
even
me
funny. It's
now,
the
and I don't like when I go back home. I'll be like, yo, who all there?
yeah,
Where we
right,
going?
right,
What time?
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I might pop in, but I'm not staying here. Like you, and there's a time, man. Listen, man. Listen.
You're
Best
right,
wishes
man.
to Gilly and them, man.
No, you're right, Steve. Like I came back home from the Marines one time for vacation and went out with my brother. And I think I told you guys this before. And we're in this spot.
At the
It
strip
just don't
club.
feel right. No, it was like one of them like street party where people just show up and we
Oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah. I
this
remember you
block is
telling the
just like
story.
shut down. And I feel uncomfortable as fuck. And I'm like, yo, we need to leave. They're like, man, just chill, man. Why you acting like that? Da da da. And then it dawns on me after like 20, 30 minutes of me saying, like, yo, when we leaving? Hang on a second. I drove us here. Yo, we're leaving. So I'm leaving. If you motherfuckers ride with me, then y'all need to be getting like let's go. And we fucking left. And then about a month ago, my brother was telling me he went home and he was around some shit like that. He was like, yo, I never understood that moment until I went home the other day, and I was like, yo, this shit, hey, I'm out, man. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Hmm.
just like, yo, like,
Yep.
like you got to get out of them situations. And I'm not a fucking millionaire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly. These
But you
it's
know
you
what?
know.
These kids, you know what? And it's funny y'all say this because I stayed up to the late hours of the morning explaining this to my oldest kid. Long story short, she went out with her friends, her friend group, and the mom or whatever. They were in the mall, this very high end mall in Maryland, whatever. And so a lot of kids from DC and Baltimore go down there and they create problems. You know how we were in the mall, Steve, when I would come even to Connecticut to y'all mall. So an incident happened and mall security basically confronted the kids and kicked them out of the mall. So my issue with this parent was that you were further enough away from them that you could not intervene, right? But I had to explain to my 14-year-old that things can happen in the blink of an eye. And, what if, you know what I mean? And these kids, despite as much access as they have to seeing when things happen to people, they really don't think about it happening to them.
Mhm.
And this generation, right? He saw Takeoff get killed, you know, and I'm not speaking. We saw this, right? We have knowledge, but you would think that people just move differently, they move smarter, but we live in a generation while it's still at your fingertips, reality is still at your fingertips. They seem like they're even more separated from that being possible.
You shouldn't be
And I
fucked up.
was explaining to her at my age. Yeah, at my age, I mean, when I was at 14, in my time, we knew the risk. We knew the reality. Did we give a shit? No. But these kids, just looking at my daughter receive this information from me and her mother, it just way past her. Despite all of the information these kids have and all of the things that they're able to see in real time, they literally have no clue. So it's like, I'm gonna go to the hood. Ain't nothing gonna happen to me out here. I'm good. Nah, it's
Yeah.
people that's jealous and they want to kill you.
They're not built like that. They're not about that life. You know what I mean? Like you see it online, you see it on in the movies, but you was never really outside. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference. We was outside. You know what I'm saying? So like at 16 years old, 15 years old when, something happened, you knew how to react. You knew how to look, where to look, if there was something that might be happening down the road or to the left or to the right, I'm gonna go this way. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're in a party and you hear a noise, that noise, or you hear some chatter in an area, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this way. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they don't know. These kids don't. I was having this conversation with Mark the other day. We were talking about his son, and going off to getting ready to go off to college and stuff. And, these kids don't like Mark's like, think about it. Mark's kid is about to be 18 years old. And he's never taken any type of public transportation. He's never gone anywhere where he hasn't been dropped off by one of his parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, by that time, I was out in clubs. You know what I'm saying? And me and Mark were saying the same thing. Like, we was out in the clubs. We was out doing things, you know what I'm saying? Things that you should or shouldn't do. So at 18, a lot of these kids, and this is what we want for our kids anyway, right? So let me not get that misconstrued, right? Like, that's what I want for my kid, is that they don't know that, right? Like, I want them to hear it and understand it from me, but not have to live through it, and that's kind of why we put them in these situations to succeed and live a better life. But at 18, he's gonna go off to college, and if something happens, he's not going to know how to react. He's not going to know where to go, what to do, and I think that's just this generation of kids, because they spend so much time on fucking on the internet and playing video games and in the house and watching. They don't go outside and play no more. So you don't get the experience.
And we live in a more dangerous time. You know what I mean?
And
Like
that and
we
that.
we we're the last generation that's old enough to know better, but young enough to still relay what we need to relay to these kids. But even in our time, it was dangerous to go outside. But we could all travel to school and do our thing, and what I mean. You had, especially in New York, you had kids being snatched and different things of that nature. But just today, you fear for these kids' lives because you know people running around with tech nines and military grade weapons, and you got random shit happening. You got white folks just randomly coming up to people telling them they can't be here. Just it's a lot of crazy shit that's going on, and it's kind of like you said, we want our kids better, and we kind of handicap them in a way. But the society has kind of left us no choice. Like VP said earlier, we know what we want the world to be, but we know the world we live in, and
Yeah,
that's where we are.
I was telling, yeah, I was telling a friend, we were talking a little bit ago, and I was like, I remember when I was a kid, man, I was a latchkey kid. I had my own key when I was in first grade. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
used to walk home
Me
from
too.
school, and it wasn't like around the corner. This was like a 20-minute walk, and because I lived too close for the bus, but close enough to still be able to walk home and not need to be picked up. And we would leave. I lived in the projects back then, and you would just see like groups of kids, like walking together. It'd be like 30 of us in one. We don't all know each other. Like it's maybe me and my 5, 6 friends, and we're part of this larger group that makes up like 30 kids. We get to the thing, crossing guard, take us cross, and then once we get to the projects, we start like separating to go to our individual cribs or whatever. But it was no problem. I never had a fear of like, man, I might get snatched up. And then when my kid got to that age, we wouldn't even let him like come home from the bus stop by himself. He caught
Hmm.
he caught the school bus, and the school bus dropped him off at the apartment, and my wife would go pick him up. And he asked her, like, the other kids walk home by themselves. How come I can't walk home by myself? And she was like, okay, you can go home by yourself tomorrow. And he was like so happy. But what he didn't know at the time was she got to the bus stop like 15 minutes before it showed up, and she followed him home just to make sure he was all good. He just didn't know she was there. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's just the day and age that we live in.
yeah, yeah. People are just crazy nowadays, man. Like mental health is at an all time, lack thereof is at an all time high, which is causing wild ass crimes. And I'm talking beyond gun violence. I'm talking about kids getting snatched up. I'm talking about people getting, whatever, right? We know what's happening out there. So you got to keep your kids safe, man. You got to keep your kids safe. And unfortunately, they're gonna miss those opportunities, And like you said, EJ, at 14, you got to prep her and make sure she understands for the next time that she's not around you or her mother, who's gonna have her as their priority, right? Like she's your priority, and that's the one thing you're worried about wherever you go. But that other parent, even if she was within arm's distance, I guarantee you, your daughter's not the number one priority. She's probably a priority, right? But she might be two, three, four, or five on the list because it's not her kid. You know what I'm saying? So you got to
And
prep her
not not
to
only
understand.
not only that priority part, right? I mean, again, this is the thing that's always been laughable for me. We assume that because the person is a mother, that she's a good parent, that she's gonna protect and do the things you would expect might do. Because I know, when there's times that I've had to pick up their friends and transport their friends or whatever, I'm going to carry all of them kids like they all mine. You know what I mean? But that's me. This lady, I mean, we don't know how she really is. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we people assume that because she's a mom, and I've had this conversation with the girls before due to other things. I'm like, you can't assume that this person, just because she gave birth to somebody, is an optimal protector. Like we can't. Everybody ain't built to be a protector and a provider. So I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like you said, you got to really prep her, and for the large part, I have. But her problem is, at 14, she, of all three of my children, is the naive one. But she's also the oldest, so she's gonna experience the bullshit first. Where my middle child, in speaking about this person who she went out with. When speaking about the parent, my middle child was like, I don't really like her. She was like, that lady, we've been out in Girl Scouts and she can't compose herself. This is my 12-year-old saying this, but my 14-year-old, nothing to see here. She's wonderful. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's one of those things, and it's a learning lesson for her. And I'm like, things could have been worse, because they were all supposed to go on a Girl Scout trip in Florida this year. And I'm like, this is the person you was gonna go to Florida with without us? Yeah, nigga, that's why you didn't go. You know what I mean? Like, nah.
Sounds like a good opportunity for a trip. But Florida
Yeah.
is wild as shit.
So you probably don't want them to come anyway. It's not easy being a black person in Florida these days.
Well, she could come.
And
She
that's
just
my
can't.
point.
She just can't. Have any books with her. They
Yes,
might
there
take
you
them
go.
and burn them.
Mm-hmm. You can check them at the border.
Yeah, man. But yeah, man. These kids. It's if they don't know about it, you've done the right thing, right? As a parent, as far as I'm concerned. Like if I don't if it's 16, 17, 18 years old and my kid has not had an experience with, gunshots in a club or a party or, smoking weed and like, I mean, I turned out great, turned out fine, right? But, you know, I would rather, my son not have to do that, and I feel like if that's the case, you've done a good job as a parent and you've succeeded because that's the ultimate goal.
Right.
Um, there was something else. Let me see. I gotta look at my notes really quick. What else we got? VP, you put something in there about Anthony Davis running off and getting married.
Oh, no. That
No?
was
Oh.
that was connected to the Bronny topic. I was, you know, wondering if y'all thought that was a candidate.
Oh, oh my god. I mean, Jesus. NFL free agency. Or not free agency. NFL training camp is in full effect, yo, and we're ready for it. I'm
I'm proud
fully
of your
ready.
toxicity this morning. I'm so proud of you. I'm
Yeah, but
so proud.
I gotta be ready for toxicity. I didn't wake up in a toxic mood, man.
He's like, I just
Um,
survived COVID, yo.
right. Right,
Oh,
exactly. I'm
that's
about to
crazy.
turn to I'm about to turn to God now.
It's like Tony Soprano after he came out the coma.
For real. Yo, I
Every
was
day, every
yesterday
day is a gift.
yesterday I took Ash to this group thing that he does on Saturdays and I'm standing by a lake looking at ducks and shit. Like, yo, what is wrong? What is wrong with me, yo? Whatever. Um But yeah, I mean
Yo,
it's
that's
it's
crazy.
obviously the jab, right? Like that's what happened with Bronny, right? Like definitely
Uh,
That's
the
clearly.
what they're
jab,
trying to say.
that shit cracks me up, yo.
Yeah,
The
every
Clearly.
time.
jab, yo, they got jabbed.
It's clearly the
All
vaccination is
these
what did it.
kids, they're all going down. They're all going down. Y'all let them
Nobody
give you the
had
jab. They're all going down.
nobody had heart issues before vaccination. Before the COVID
Nope.
vaccination, of course. No.
Nope.
Nobody. Not Reggie Lewis or all right, NFL
Free
training
agent.
camps are in full effect. Free agents are starting to, the high profile free agents are starting to go places. Injuries are popping up left and right. Um, the big news this week, actually, there's a few of them. Joe Burrow went down with a leg injury. But they're saying that he's on track. They suspect he'll be back for week one.
Yeah.
But VP, your team, you guys lost your big signing from the year, or from the off season, likely until about halfway, if not more, through the season.
It's probably
In
through the season.
Jalen Ramsey.
It's probably the season. Because Cameron Wolf reported that the options sent basically were he could do a meniscus trim, which would let him
Mhm.
be back probably like around early October if everything went right with rehab, or a full meniscus repair, which would let him come back like around December. So I mean, with a player being out potentially until December, I'm thinking the team is probably assuming this guy is done for the year, and we'll see what happens. But that was terrible for us. The one thing, I guess, the one silver lining, if you can call it that, with losing a DB at the level of a Jalen Ramsey, is that we still have Xavier Howard. So the two of them was going to be like monsters, but we still got Xavier Howard there. And last year, DB depth was a problem for us because we lost a lot of DBs last year. So they went into this offseason and brought in a bunch of DBs who were on the roster last year. Some of the guys who came back from injury, plus new guys. We even drafted a DB with our second round pick this past draft, Cam Smith out of South Carolina.
I
So
like that kid too. He's fast as shit.
yeah. So, I think the Dolphins were preparing to lose DBs, just not Jalen Ramsey. You know what I mean? So, and the last thing I think that will help us is, I saw somebody who reported, like, even with losing Jalen Ramsey, with having Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, and he's had plenty of young DBs that he's worked up to become good guys. So hopefully he can get somebody in there to fill that void.
I just signed Eli Apple. That was a good pickup, I think.
Yeah, this is
The,
more
the
of a
Jet.
depth signing.
Oh, Miami signed Eli Apple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, I like uh the Aaron Rodgers news that came out, that he decided to take the Tom Brady higher role and take a pay cut this year to make room for more talent. I mean, I said it yesterday in the chat, and I don't know how far the Jets do go. And I don't want to make it seem like it's any type of premature ejac, but I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. They said Dalvin Cook is likely to sign there. He said it's highly likely that he's going to sign there, right? So now
He came
we
back
got
yesterday and pushed back against that.
we'll see. We got potentially Dalvin Cook going there, right? Which would make all the sense in the world. Still with a young running back in Brees Hall. You obviously brought in Aaron Rodgers. You got young wide receivers. You got a good defense. Like, that team, I think, is going to be fun to watch. I don't know how well they're going to do, but I think it could be a fun team to watch if all of that plays out. And realistically, I don't know that they're done after that pay cut that Rodgers took. Like, if Dalvin Cook is one move, they still got another move or two in them, pause, that they can make happen. Whether it's another wide receiver, whether it's what, right?
So let me say this real quick before EJ jumps in and starts stroking the Jets or whatever. And this is
Hey, oh,
not a biased Dolphins fan perspective, right? But
yes, it
this
is.
is my issue with the Aaron Rodgers deal, right? I don't have a problem with me. I'm an advocate for players getting paid, right? So I don't have a problem with a player taking a team friendly deal for the team to do what they need to do to try to win, right? But the team itself matters. You know what I mean? If you're Patrick Mahomes and you take a 10-year, whatever the number was, deal, and it's more team friendly, and you've been to, three Super Bowls, won two, lost one, multiple AFC championships. Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame coach. The ownership is great. Cool. No problem taking a team friendly deal. You're Tom Brady. You got Belichick, Robert Kraft. They putting the pieces around you. You've been to 10 Super Bowls, won six, et cetera, et cetera. Cool. Take a team friendly deal. The Jets are a dysfunctional organization. And I would be hesitant as a player to take a team friendly deal for them to do these pieces for us to win, because they don't have a track record of doing this in the past. So it would make me hesitate. For Rodgers, he's made a ton of money over his career. He's at the end of his career, so maybe he's like, okay, it's not like I'm hurting for this money, so I can do it for them to bring pieces around me to try to win. But I would be hesitant to do that.
That's a fair point. I think there's a lot of factors when you add that in though, because Green Bay, we know one thing's for sure, two things for certain. Green Bay was not comfortable with paying him what he was going to get paid in the years to come as they had Jordan Love. So you know that relationship had to end. So the thing is, where was he gonna go? That was gonna make financial sense. And so I think with Aaron Rodgers now and Joe Douglas being there, and Woody Johnson gets a horrible rep as an owner, but he's always been a player's owner. Like
Woody Johnson is
everyone
a
that's ever
crazy name.
played, everyone that's ever played for him has said that he's a very player friendly owner. And I think and you make a perfect point as the Jets over the years, absolutely, especially in ownership prior to Woody. But I think Aaron Rodgers, feels the environment. He loves the players. He loves Douglas. He loves what they're building there. So I mean, I think for him, I think that factored in, and I think he'll get his money on the back end, all things considered, somehow. So I mean, it makes sense. He's in New York. He's loving the culture. He's outside. And after these 2 years or whatever, how much time he's going to be done, he might actually stay up there and find himself, having a different career and different life up there. So I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes on. I mean, it's definitely a fair point you have. Um, but like you said, he's made a lot of money, and if anything good does come from these 2 years, he'll get that 35 mil back in other ways for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be good being the face of a franchise in New York City, right? Just like if it was LA, just like if it was Miami, like those are probably the three biggest areas that if you were going to be the face of a franchise or the primary signed free agent of a team, those are the cities that you would want. I mean, he's probably bumping elbows with everybody. He's eating what he wants. He's got probably broads up the yin yang because he just there was rumors that he broke up with that chick. So
Weed
um
dispensaries everywhere.
weed dispensaries, like, and he's chilling with black people now, so it's a whole different type of thing. Like, he's not chilling with a bunch of Republican anti-vaxxers. He's chilling with some niggas. Dude came out with a gold chain and everything, even though it was kind of whack, but nonetheless, right? He's getting in tune with his more melanated teammates. But I'm interested in seeing. There's still some premier free agents that are still left out there. Dalvin Cook will still call him available because he hasn't signed yet. Julio Jones, not so worried about him, but Melvin Ingram is still out there, right? Jarvis Landry is still out there, which I think he could make a difference somewhere. Taylor Lewan, I don't understand how he's. I mean, he came out the closet, so maybe that's why they didn't. Someone's not signing him. Like, I have to assume, like, if especially like I'm thinking Cowboys, right? We could use the
Mhm.
offensive line help. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't we go get this guy? But then I'm thinking, all right, it's Texas, right? Like, do you want to bring that into your organization in Texas? And I'm just being a realist here, right? Like, your
Jerry
fan base and
Jerry went
exactly
and signed that boy.
right, your
God damn
fan
it,
base,
Jerry.
your supporters. Like, how could you bring him in here? Like, so anyway, Taylor Lewan's out there. Will Compton, DJ Fluker's a big one. Unique Ngakwe is still available. Ezekiel Elliott met with the Patriots yesterday. I don't know if anything more came from that. Quan
Nasty.
Alexander's another name that's out there at the linebacker
He
space.
he actually is rumored to go not to Pittsburgh. I just saw it. He might be
Who's
off the
he?
market. I forgot. Quan Alexander, linebacker.
Oh,
We
okay.
had him last year, and the assumption has been all of this time that he would come back, but he's being rumored to sign somewhere. I just saw it. Can't remember. So he
There's
might be
some
off the
guys out
market.
there, man. Miles Jack is still out there. Kenyon Drake
He
running back.
Quan is a Steeler now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, he's officially because the Steelers had signing him before, and then it didn't go through. He wanted to come back to us because he basically had a career year last year with us. He hadn't played a full season up until last year, so he was a hot free agent target. But now he's a Steeler, so good for them.
Yo, also, you know, along with injuries and notable free agents, we also see Justin Herbert blockbuster deal, 5 years, $262.5 million,
Wow.
100, 150 something million, 160 million, something like that, guaranteed. Highest, paid quarterback in the history of the league. Undeserved in my opinion. Um, and
Absolutely.
then
I would agree.
the Giants. Did they change the salary cap for New York based teams or something? Because I
Yo,
mean, they've given $300 million in contracts just to 3 offensive linemen this offseason. You know what I mean? And then you had the Cowboys huge deal for Trayvon Diggs,
on
5 years,
Diggs.
97 million. The thing that I'm wondering about, and you may know more about this, Steve, since that's your team, is that, like, I get it, that's a big number, but like, is the contract structured in a way that's team friendly? Because I know Micah's due next year, and I'm pretty sure they had to do this deal thinking of factoring in Micah next year. You know what I'm saying?
I read about it earlier in the week. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know it's not all up front. I think it's back end loaded like the Cowboys are good for.
Mm.
Um but you know what that's turning into is
Back end loaded like the
pause.
Cowboys are good for. Broke back
Um
mountain there, buddy.
but what it turns into, like you said, is a Micah Parsons issue potentially, right? But they're gonna get that done. Like there's
Yeah,
dues that you
you got to
pay,
get that done.
right? Like it's dues that get cut and there's dues that get paid, dues that don't get
Right.
paid. Like Micah getting paid ASAP, unless he gets injured. But it runs into people like Zach Martin, right? Zach Martin has taken pay cuts over the years for the Cowboys, and you're paying these guys, and he's like, "Yo, I think I deserve a little bit more," and they're not paying him, and so now there's rumors that he's unhappy, with the way he's being treated in that sense, right? And
Mm.
so Jerry is good for that, man. Like the Cowboys and Jerry Jones are good for what have you done for me lately? Like you think about it, DeMarcus Ware, hey, you gonna take a pay cut? No, all right. Des Bryant, hey, you gonna take a pay cut? No, all right. Marion Barber, hey, you plan on taking a pay cut? No, okay. Felix Jones, you gonna take a pay? No, all right. Like that's how the Cowboys roll. Jalen Smith, hey, we gave you the shot off of injury. You gonna take this light pay? No. All right. Like that's Jerry and them, right? They're like that. Um, but is that a detriment? Is that why we haven't gotten it done? Like, and that's the question that people have to start asking. And maybe Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and that's the people in those spaces need to start asking themselves that question. Like, maybe at some point you got to catch up and stop all these backloading because 2-3 years down the line, once people age out, you don't have the money to pay because you're still paying the back end of those big contracts.
Hmm.
And now you're cutting that talent, right before their prime, or you're not getting the tail end of their prime with some new prime guys. Like I don't know. I don't know if the structuring is right there, but Trayvon Diggs, I like him. That's a lot of money though. That is a lot of money for a guy who is boom or bust. Like he's gonna either make the play or he's gonna get beat. There's no in between. There's no ooh, he almost got beat. No, he either gets beat and it's six, or he gets the interception, right? Which you
Yeah.
gotta respect the guy that makes those picks. You gotta respect the guy, but at some point, listen, man, you can't make those bad decisions in big games, but to kind of address what you're talking about with the offensive line with the Giants, they have to.
Hmm.
The Eagles beefed up their defense and their pass rush like crazy. The Cowboys are beefing up their defense and their pass rush like crazy. And they paid Daniel Jones. And
Yeah.
while we're here talking about the Giants, Saquon Barkley, listen, give me a call, dog. I've done a lot of Madden contracts. I could have gotten you a lot more than 100,000 extra dollars and a $2
Right.
million fucking incentivized bonus. If you had called me, hit me up. I got you because they took advantage of him. His agent, who is I'm gonna find out who his agent is.
But
Absolute
going
trash.
going back to what VP said about Herbert, right? Because we glossed over that. Um, I
Y'all
haven't
just don't
given
like
Raven
white quarterbacks.
I haven't given Ravens fans a hard time yet, but this goes to show you how bullshit that situation was. You know, the Chargers, I think, will always be. Like, I don't ever respect their team to do anything. Like, they look good. Phil Rivers had all of them wins just to get the playoffs, get bounced out every time. It's the same story with those guys, right? But just all things considered, we see his upside and his potential on what Herbert can be. But you juxtapose that to Lamar Jackson, who already hit so many benchmarks and did so many things and means so much to your franchise, and you gave him a hard time to get a contract. This dude Herbert has done nothing, and Chargers just like, go ahead,
Saquon.
you got it, no problem.
Saquon
It's
is in the
terrible.
Rock Nation.
Yeah, nah, AJ, I'm right there with you when you compare the Lamar contract situation to these other guys, you know what I mean? And like Steve said, talking about Jerry Jones, in a league that builds itself as what have you done for me lately? You've had a guy who's gone to the AFC Championship, he's won the MVP, multiple playoff wins, deep playoff runs, etc. They win more games with him than they do without him. He's won, I think the stat is like something like 67%, 70% of his games that he plays or whatever, you know what I mean? And you have a guy like Herbert. I think I saw the stat this week. It said in his career, he's like 26 and 24, middle of the road, average quarterback. You made him the richest player in NFL history. Yeah, he can throw the ball 80 yards or whatever, but what is that translating to? He hasn't won a single playoff game in his career. And yeah, and I get it. People will say, oh, well, they had injured receivers. Keenan Allen can't stay on the field, blah, 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 blah. And I get it that you pay based on potential. You know what I mean? But you see potential based on what you do. And Lamar has been doing it, and he had to fight to get paid. And this guy is just average Joe, and he's the richest quarterback in the history of the league. That
He's
shit
not
is
average
fucked
Joe.
up.
He threw for 4,700 yards, but nonetheless, we're
It's
talking
26
about
and 24. Average Joe.
Then what does that make Tua?
Huh?
And what does that make Tua?
Tua hasn't played as many games, but his winning percentage is higher than Burrow.
All right, I don't want to make
guess what? And guess what though? Even if you want to bring it to Tua hasn't gotten paid. The Dolphins said you're gonna prove it to us.
You gotta prove it.
Hey, there's a couple of things here, right? One, it's Baltimore, and we're comparing Baltimore and we're comparing the Chargers. Chargers are known for bad contracts with quarterbacks. Like, look,
I agree.
Look, like, so that's, and then we have to talk about how markets are going to reset, right? So I wouldn't compare personally this deal to the Lamar Jackson situation and say, oh, how they couldn't get it done, but they got it done for this guy. What was the other person that got paid around Lamar Jackson?
Hurts.
Hurts. It was Hurts, and there was someone else. Was it Joe Burrow?
Daniel Jones. Joe Burrow still in talks.
Okay.
No, Burrow is still in talks. Yeah. It was Daniel Jones.
So I would not control. I would compare it more to the Hurts type of situation, and it should have been a lot quicker. And Hurts had the one good season, and blah blah blah. We don't know what he's got going on. He's a running quarterback, bar none, no injuries, but still, right? No major injuries. But the league is going to reset itself, right? And that's and if anyone's going to reset it, it's going to be the Chargers, and it's going to be with the pure American guy, like, you know what I'm saying? This guy had a down season last year with injured players and threw for 4,700 yards. They're gonna pay him, right? You're gonna talk about potential, and when we talk about quarterback all the time, we say the league is changing, but these owners, just like the Senate, ain't getting no younger. They don't see the league changing. The coaches might, but the league doesn't, or the owners don't. As far as they're concerned, I need this guy that's going to stand in the pocket and throw the ball. They're a quarterback. I need the pure white guy. I don't care about how fast you are. I don't care how fast Lamar is, right? And so I think that partially plays into it.
Steve,
is he overpaid?
Steve,
maybe.
You're not wrong, right? What you're saying is not wrong, but I feel like what me and EJ is saying versus what you're saying, we're both right. Right. So in Herbert's situation, it's, this kid has all this potential. If we just get some pieces around him, maybe, we got a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, etc. This team is going to be something special on this guy's arm. Right. Cool, no problem. You're paying for potential. At the end of the day, though, right? When you judge what has he done in the past to show where he could go in the future, he barely wins games. He's 26 and 24, right? You have a guy like Lamar who's like 40 something and 17, and they say, we don't know. I mean, he might get injured, blah, blah, blah. What we do know is when he's on the field, you guys win. And
But
they
how many?
say, I don't know if we can pay him though.
So let me
He
ask you
might get
something.
hurt.
How many more years has Lamar played than Justin Herbert?
I think two.
2 more years than Justin Herbert, and I think he's played less games than Justin Herbert. So I know y'all don't like to hear the injury shit, but the injury shit plays a part. Availability is your best ability. Like it's gonna play a part. And here's the other thing. I feel like the Chargers, in addition to that, had to get this deal done because there's rumors that Pat Mahomes is about to get redone. And once he get redone, oh boy, niggas is gonna
Yeah.
have to
I
pay
mean,
up
he's
because
not
he
due. He's signed a 10-year, but they're probably going to
Yeah.
restructure.
Oh, they gonna restructure that shit. This man just won another Super Bowl. Oh yeah, they gonna restructure. He gonna run up to about $1 billion. Easy money. Give me about 7. He gonna get one of them Mbappe contracts. That's what he gonna
Whoa.
get. 300 million for the year. ASAP.
That joint is
Um
crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I listen, man. I agree. I think it's a lot for Herbert, but I also, on the same token, Jalen Brown he just became the richest NBA player of all time. A guy that can only go one way, a guy that
Yeah.
disappeared in the playoffs, right? That's no different than Justin Herbert losing a huge lead to the Jaguars in the playoffs. There's no major difference there, right? Jalen Brown's supposed to be the star. He couldn't take over and beat the Heat in one game.
Yeah. And that's the next one we're about to see, Trevor Lawrence. Because all of them are in that same Trevor Lawrence, Herbert, Tua, all of them are in that same class. It's just that for Tua, Dolphins exercise 5th-year option.
Yeah, you gotta
Joe
wait.
Burrow, Lawrence, all those guys are due, so
If I'm Lawrence, yo, I'm waiting until after this year before I even start combos because he's gonna have Calvin Ridley. Like, I think, man, listen, the Jags,
You also gotta hope that he stays healthy, though. That's
that too,
that's the factor. Because if you're
that too.
him
But
and
he don't got a
Herbert
lot of
just got that
mileage.
bread,
Like, he didn't get hit at Clemson too much. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
yeah, but
he was
like
well
all it
protected.
takes
I
is
know,
one thing.
I know.
All it takes is one thing.
And and
And if
and
I'm
if I'm
looking at
Lawrence,
Herbert's contract and I'm Lawrence, like probably where you about to go, I'm like, yo, dog, we got to talk about this because if
yeah,
I get out there and I tear my knee up and then y'all fuck around, it's Jacksonville, y'all fuck around and take another number 1 pick and ship me out. Where's my security?
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
If I'm Trevor
Trevor,
Lawrence,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I think I probably would wait for Burrow to sign first because we keep seeing these guys leapfrog each
Mhm.
other. And while I think uh uh Lawrence is probably better than Herbert and would get a higher number, I think Herbert is gonna reset the market much higher, which then even if Lawrence doesn't surpass Burrow, he can at least go above Lawrence while still being under Burrow. So I think
Joe,
you let Burrow go first and like reset the number way up, and then you come in like right under him.
Joe Burrow's got to be careful, man. He can't let that calf injury linger this year. If we're talking about him trying to get read up, because I'm telling you, injuries are going to play a part, and people are going to have that conversation. And even though we know how great of a quarterback that guy is, it's going to be like when we have these conversations, and they're still going to have Jamar Chase that they got to deal with. They're still going to have T Higgins. I think T Higgins is this year that they got to deal with. Like, if I'm Cincinnati, I'm looking for any reason to try and pull Joe Burrow's number down some. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
you gotta look at it that way. To your point, the injuries, and that's why I think Lawrence has more leverage than anyone. Because again, I think my
because he
knee
does
wasn't
Pilates.
torn up at LSU. My knee wasn't torn up at LSU. Joe Burrow's also an older quarterback. We forget
Yeah.
he's an older dude. He's like 27, right? Something like that. And you had you had a knee injury in the league. Now you got this calf injury, which could be more, and they're not letting on. So I think if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I'm looking at the Jaguars like I'm healthy, I'm good.
Yeah,
You know,
Joe
Trev is
Burrow's Joe Burrow's 26. He'll be 27 in December.
yeah, December what?
all right, yep, yep.
December 10th.
Close to you, EJ.
Hey, he's there with us. He's Sagittarius.
But Trevor, yeah, that's why I like him. Trev is he's young. He has long hair. He comes from a boat family. They wear boat shoes, Sperry. So he definitely does Pilates, yoga. Like he's not out there only strength training. So I think it'll take a big hit for him to get. I mean, we saw him take some big hits this year. Matter of fact, we saw him in the playoff game take that hit where we were like, he ain't coming back, and he came back. So,
Well,
yeah. So to your point,
Trevor Lawrence is
he needs to have
6'6",
that
220.
conversation.
But
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence is
I
also
think
6'6", 220.
Jacksonville.
So
I think Jacksonville is about to back up a Brinks truck for Trevor Lawrence, and the reason
no
why I say
question.
that is that what you see happening in ownership is what you saw happen in ownership with Milwaukee. The guy who owns the Milwaukee Bucks basically bought up like a bunch of the area surrounding the arena and like started building it up, thinking we're gonna have a superstar player. We're gonna be in the mix every year as long as he's here. So let's build up this area around it because this is where people are gonna be coming to watch the games, to hang out, etc. You know what I mean? So he's not only investing in the team, investing in Giannis, investing in the surrounding area around the arena. And Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, just spent like I think the number was something like almost $300 million, like buying a bunch of shit around the Jaguar Stadium, doing the same thing. Probably thinking we got our quarterback now. We seem to have our coach in Doug Peterson. I'm about to start building this thing up around here because we're going to be a team that's likely going to be in the mix for a while as long as this kid is our quarterback, right?
Where's he from?
And who?
Khan?
Shad Khan? I think he's from like either Pakistan or India or something like that.
India,
Exactly.
Pakistan, one of those. Yeah.
Arab money. Arab
But
money.
Shout out to him though, because as an owner, he, that minority ownership, he's dedicated himself to getting this area of professional football and really wanting to succeed to turn this franchise around.
right, and the thing
So
too that I
to your
like about
point,
Shad
DP,
Khan, the thing I like about him too is the fact that like they understand like those fans in Jacksonville, they're rabid. They fucking love that team. You know what I'm saying? Like as bad as we think that they've been, like these dudes go hard for the Jaguars. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think like we would see a situation that happened with Lamar play out with Trevor Lawrence because they understand that this fan base who's been loyal as hell through all these terrible seasons, except for the one or two that they've, made the playoffs or whatever. The fans aren't gonna have that shit. They fucking love Trevor Lawrence, just as much as they love this team. And so I think Jacksonville is not gonna fuck around when it's time to start doing business with him.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna pay him. Plus, this this is the best that this Jacksonville team has looked in total capacity, especially on the offensive side of the ball, in a very very long time. And this is as bad as that division has looked in a very very long. They're gonna start Gardner Minshew in Indy. Like Gardner
Right.
Minshew is a starting quarterback in one. Ryan Tannehill is your starting quarterback, maybe down in Tennessee. And then Houston, I don't even know the dudes. I forgot his name. So like,
Bryce,
Bryce
isn't it
Young.
Bryce Young? Yeah, Bryce Young.
okay. Oh, I like him though. I do like him. Let me take that back. But he's still a rookie, right? So
Right.
if I'm Jacksonville, I'm thinking I should be winning this division this year, probably next year, at least for the
Right.
next 2 years, till Bryce gets a little better, maybe some weapons around him because Houston's got draft picks. They drafted really well this year, as a matter of fact. They got a young team and they got a lot of money to spend. So eventually they're probably going to come into, if they can make some better decisions aside from what they did with like DeAndre Hopkins and giving him away for
Yeah, if you're Jacksonville, I think that you go in and you probably think, based on what Steve was saying about the quarterback talent in that division, right? we're very likely going to be the winners of this division. We're going to the playoffs this year. And our goal is to win 2 games, right? We need to win 2 games and then get to KC. And then we got to basically show out in KC and try to go to the Super Bowl. And I think that because they're not going to win the AFC to where they get home field advantage and all that kind of thing like that. So that's why I say 2 games. So you got to play in the wild card week, and then you win the divisional round, and then you punch your ticket to go to KC to play. And then maybe you're lucky and Cincinnati and KC, or Cincinnati knocks out KC, or Buffalo knocks out KC. Maybe the Dolphins knock out the Jets, one of those teams that are going to be in that playoff mix or whatever. And then you don't even got to see KC, and you got an even better shot of going to the Super Bowl. But given the quarterback talent in that division, you got to be thinking, this year for sure, and maybe next year. It's like our
window.
It's gonna be the window. Lauren's gonna have a long career, unless something happens catastrophic, right? But you got to think like the window is open right now, and they got to take advantage of this.
You're guaranteed a home game is basically what's happening right now. Like you got one guaranteed home game for the most part, unless barring injury, in the playoffs, at least one in that division.
Real quick, does Tyreek Hill get any games suspended?
I don't think so. After seeing the video, I think he gets a fine and probably not a suspension.
Steve?
And also, we've talked about this a lot. Did you guys see the video?
No.
I couldn't really make out what was going on.
I didn't see it.
He walks past the guy. The guy must have said something because he turns and like smacks him in the back of the head or whatever. But it was like one of them kind of like, it didn't even look like it was that hard.
Nigga, I would have jumped on the floor, banged my face on the ground, broke my nose. Like, yo, the cheetah just knocked my face off, yo. Listen.
The guy probably starts talking again because the video has no sound. So the guy probably starts chirping again, and you see Tyreek, like, he's like exploding. And what happens? His mans in them grabs him, get them the fuck out of there. And it's like, we always talk about these celebrities, these fake, like, yo, where's your team? Where's your no man? You know what I'm saying? Ja Morant in the car with the gun. Where's the guy saying, nah, dog, this ain't the move?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You messing up. You're not messing up your money. You're messing up my money. Like, I get to come to these all-star weekends because of you. So I can't have you getting in trouble. Because listen, if
man?
That would be me. That would be me 100%. I'll be thinking more about me. You gonna fuck my life up by you getting in trouble. That is a no-go.
Right.
But no, he's not going to get suspended because he definitely has something on Roger Goodell because he gets to punch babies and, not have any consequences. And so he's exempt 100%.
Is football this Thursday? Nah.
I think it's next Thursday. Next Thursday is a Hall of Fame game. Yep. Is that the Jets, right?
Yeah. Browns and Jets.
Oh, that's going to be a barn burner.
Yeah. I mean, those games always suck.
I know. Hall of Fame, you never see a story.
No, it's this week. August 3rd. It's this week.
Oh, is it?
Okay.
Yeah, I know I wasn't tripping. Yeah, I knew I wasn't tripping.
Not this time.
Probably not going to see a starter until, late August. And they'll play 1-2 series and done. And the way training camp going, these teams might be like, man, fuck it. We ain't playing starters at all.
Right.
Yeah,
especially now since they got that new rule, you don't got to cut down to the 53 until after everything is done. Yep. So
I'm not playing a starter at all if I'm any team. Like I'm not. It's no point. And these joint practices, we have a joint practice. I hate them shits. I hate them.
I don't like those either. But we had, we had this conversation last year, and the teams that played their starters came out hot in week 1 and 2. And so I'm not saying you got to play them long term, but I want to see, like, especially the Cowboys, like these dudes every year, week 1 just look like shit every single year. Like I can't. And now we don't have Zeke. Zeke is always sat out. Dak is always sad. I need Dak to get up in there and get some reps. And Tony Pollard is coming off of a knee injury. Like we got to see if he has any type of speed to see if we need to go get a Leonard Fournette or something like there needs to be. You don't
Tony
need. You
Pollard
don't.
shouldn't play until like week 6.
No, they're saying he's going to be
He ain't
ready
gonna be
week
ready
one.
for no preseason. Shit, he bugging. He
They're
bugging.
saying
I
that. I
wouldn't.
don't know
I
if
wouldn't
it's.
rest
I don't
him.
know if it's true, but they'll say anything to make the fans happy, right? Um. Benji's, man. Before we run out of time, we're getting long. Pause. VP, you got to watch quarterback. EJ, did you watch it at all?
Yeah, I watched some of it. I watched some of it.
How'd you feel about it? Did you see VP? Did you see where I said you would dislike Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I watched it. I enjoy it. I actually didn't mind like the religious stuff with Kurt's cut. Like, yeah, I don't mind religious people. It's the people who throw it in your face and try to convert you and all. You know, he don't seem like that type. You know, he seems like one of the type of people where it's like their religion sustains their life. You know, it's
His
a
wife
part of
is
their
hot
life. Yeah, his wife is I wouldn't go that
for
far.
what for a white
She
lady.
She's cute.
she
Like,
better than Mahomes' wife.
yeah,
Mahomes'
Mahomes'
wife.
wife's not that attractive, but
Yo, he looked like she gets on his fucking
Yo,
nerves.
no doubt, 100%. She's a pain
it's
in the
because they're
ass. Yo,
friends. It's because they're friends. Like, you know, so
Yo, she looked like she been getting on his nerves since high school, my nigga.
but he's too
yeah.
yeah, but he's too far invested now. Like
Right.
she's
Like,
part owner of a soccer
I
team.
was
Like
just about to say that. Like, that's the part of the show that I was like, that shit literally made me laugh out loud because he was like, yeah, you know, Brittany's part owner of this soccer team. She bought da da da. I'm thinking like, she bought
right.
like how?
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
well, she played overseas. She played professional
She
soccer
ain't got enough
overseas for
money to buy no goddamn franchise, part of a
no, I
franchise.
don't. Well, yeah, no. Part of that $500 million went into that. That $500 million contract went into that. But that
Yeah, he
house
was
they were
like,
building looked fire.
Man,
he
that
was
house
like,
they built, Jesus Christ.
he
Woo!
was like, yo, I don't want to. He's like, I'm not taking any more pictures. I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
walking away.
Yeah,
I was dying,
she's
yo.
annoying, bro.
I
yeah.
was
But that's what
And
dying,
that's
yo.
you know what? That when I watched it, it was one of the Kirk Cousins pieces. It actually made me think about Deshaun Watson with with all the allegations, right? When Kirk Cousins have the chiropractors come over to work on him, and
Mhm.
it's like you
What you
know
just
these
say?
guys.
Yeah,
What
I
you
know.
say?
You
He put cryotherapy and chiropractor together.
oh shit, my bad. But when he has the chiropractors come over to work on him, you know that these guys they find somebody who they trust, and like this is like their person. You know, Mahomes got his trainer to move from Texas to KC
Mhm.
to work on him. You know what I'm saying? The same way the guy you had me follow, David what's his name, Axelrod Alexander,
Oh,
LeBron's
David
guy.
Alexander Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, end up going to Miami. And now he's still in Miami because he became a big dude down there. A lot of people go to Miami to see him or whatever. You know what I mean? But these dudes have people who come where they are. So it just seems insane to me that you've had like 40 some different masseuses. Like, come on, dog.
Well, I think what you're talking about is two different things. Deshaun was paying for sex work, as these guys were actually paying for
Allegedly.
beneficial services. Oh no, it was sex work. I mean, we ignored that part of the case. They accepted the duty to do the rub and tugs. They just said he went too far, and which is funny now because there's not a thing being said about Watson. I was just saying it's crazy what a year difference does. No, no protests, no none of that.
Because people they move on. And it's not,
Fickle.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is potential alleged sexual abuse of women, right? It's not like
Right.
it's dogs, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like who the
not
fuck
like he
cares about
killed the
women?
dog. Right.
Listen. Listen. Dogs can't think for themselves. Women can.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't want to,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Let me
I'll
put
let you, I'll let you have
let
that
me
one.
put it into perspective. If
Benji's.
I'll let you have that one.
if you said, "Hey, I got a house full of dudes that are gonna bet on something," and you tell a dog that, the dog's just gonna follow you because they trust and love you. A woman, probably not so much. They don't have to. Like they can make a decision. And part of that decision is, hey, if you agree that your little nails, your fresh manicure gets to brush up against my balls while you're giving me a massage, and I just happen to get aroused, the
Wow.
arousal wasn't in the contract, but you knew what there could be. Every action has a reaction.
Oh
Benji's.
man. Yeah. So yeah, but I watched quarterback. I enjoyed it.
Mm.
I thought it was like good to see behind the scenes and like how these guys kind of live their lives, like the stuff that we don't see, like like I really enjoyed a lot of the Kirk Cousins moments in the thing, honestly, even though I don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but like seeing how he was like, man, when I was younger, I used to only get in the cold pool up to my knees. Now I got to go all the way up to my chest, and then like when he had that rib injury and he kept getting hit or whatever, I
You
was
heard him
expecting him to go to
wincing
the O
like a
line
little
like, yo, can
bitch.
y'all block somebody? Like shit. You know what I mean? Like, so like I thought that was very interesting, just watching that like behind the scenes stuff. Even with Mahomes, when Andy Reid's like, yo, I'm taking you out. He's like, fuck that. Hell no. Like so, it was cool. I
Patrick
enjoyed it.
Mahomes kind of looked like a cornball though. Like
Yeah, he did.
as I watch it, I'm like, I think he a cornball.
Yeah. But I watched that. I enjoyed it. I also checked out an oldie, but a goodie. I watched National Lampoon's Vacation with Chevy Chase back in the 80s.
Mm.
Laughing my that shit. I love that that's classic, man.
I like watching those old
Yeah.
movies and shows because you see the inappropriate jokes and be like,
Yeah.
man, this could
Oh my
never play,
gosh.
never have come out today.
Yo, that's why I'm always sharing them Al Bundy clips, yo. That nigga
Yeah.
was a savage, yo. Yo, Bundy was a savage, yo. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Oh,
Oh, and I
I've been
watched
watching.
the other one I watched was Ready Player One. I had never seen it, even though it came out back in like 2017.
Oh yeah,
Jesus
yeah, the
Christ.
little cartoon joint.
hmm
I'm still watching Warrior. VP. I don't know if you've been keeping up with that.
No,
Uh,
because they were out of town with TJ for bowling, so I waited for her to come back home. So could we watch that together? So we get back
What
on
is it?
yesterday.
yeah,
Warrior, the show we
Warrior.
told you to watch 2 years
Uh,
ago.
I
like
started
yeah,
it. But
ages ago.
it's
What you call
corny.
it? You got Warrior. I was just talking to Steve pre-production. The Mayans finished, and like your mom, I didn't know your mom Steve watched the show, but she posted that she had just seen the season, the finale, pretty much of the show, and boy, I was no good afterwards. To say
Oh
that I
yeah,
was no
Kurt
good.
Sutter will do that. Was it worse than
Kurt,
Opie?
nah, it wasn't worse than Opie. Nah, not at
Okay,
all. I think Opie by far is one of the worst TV deaths I've ever seen.
it might
Like
be yo,
by
It
far.
and
wasn't.
consider it wasn't even on like a major, like a what do they call those?
HBO or yeah,
Like a
Yeah,
major, yeah. I wasn't affected by Opie, man. Like, and not that it wasn't a bad death. What happened was when I started
but you
watching
didn't watch it in
Sons.
real time.
No, but when I started watching, so I binge everything. I started watching Sons, and the girl sitting next to me, we used to talk about Game of Thrones. She'd be like, "Yo, no spoilers." Or I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I was like, "Yeah, I started watching Sons of Anarchy. I'm liking it. My boy recommended it, blah blah blah." And she was like, "Oh, I used to watch that show. When they killed Opie, I couldn't do it anymore. I stopped watching it." And
Oh,
when she said that,
she
I
ruined it.
hadn't even been introduced to Opie. I didn't even know who the fuck that was.
She
They hadn't
Yeah,
even
ruined it.
introduced the character yet. So when it happened, I was just kind of like, it's like I was
waiting
just
for him to
waiting for it to
die.
happen because
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
was
see,
so I
we
didn't get
we
to
didn't
have that
see that
impact.
shit coming. Like you didn't see that shit coming, in the way that it was done was just
hmm
savage. Like,
I think
uh
like even his pops, when his pops died, was kind of sad. Up
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
cabin, that shit was
yeah.
sad. Then that Opie, you know what
Uh
it was? We were watching in real time, and then you had like Game of Thrones. You had people, kind of commenting. I think that was Facebook at the time. I don't even think niggas was really up on Instagram and Twitter like that. Like it was
yeah,
no,
there, but that's not where people were talking about TV and shit.
yep.
yeah. That was me on Sunday. I didn't go on social media on Sundays, man, because I'm like, I can't have no spoilers for Game of Thrones. I gotta go in blind.
Yeah, yeah. What was the other thing? Oh, Winning Time. Yeah, I gotta watch that.
I
That
started it. I watched the
that
first 2 episodes a while back and just never got back to it.
I binged it like in 2 days, and it was just dope. It was phenomenal all the way around. Yo, Magic. If if this is
It
true
was
to life,
crazy how when they
Magic
bought the
was
team, right?
wilding.
Oh yeah. But remember Magic, remember when it first came out, Magic kind of he challenged it. He said that a lot of it wasn't accurate. Now, obviously there's two sides to that. Either it really isn't or he didn't want motherfuckers to know that he was really like like
Yo, Magic,
there's no
Magic,
Yeah,
question. Like they
you
saw
knocking
that
him down
coming.
or something?
Magic. Though even the way that it started off was kind of crazy, but Magic was wilding, yo. He was having a good time, man. But it was a good show. I loved it. I wish they had some better actors for like Dr. J and other people, but it was, it was dope. And I think they're planning to have a second season, but with all the strikes and stuff, I don't know how it's
Yeah.
impacted them.
Yo, them writer strikes about to fuck the fall up, yo.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, I was locked up, and so while I was locked up, I tried to watch a few things. Um, I got caught on this series Ghosts. I was talking about it earlier. It's pretty interesting. So
CBS joint.
yeah, so basically, um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that show.
yeah, a girl and her husband, a couple buys a house, right? It's an old house, or they inherit a house that her family owned, and there's ghosts there, right? Um, they don't know. They get there, she falls, she bangs her head, and now she can see the ghost, so she can talk to the ghost, but the husband can't. And you got like one ghost from like the Viking era. You got
Thor.
one from Thor. You got one of the generals, one of the American generals from back in the day. You got and so it's just different people throughout different areas of time. And so you just hearing them talk about different stuff, like one of the ladies, like I said, she was like from the 1300s or some shit, 1500s, where she's like you shouldn't you shouldn't be able to drive a car, you're a woman, so it's funny like seeing that, because you kind of forget the thought pattern of people that might have lived at that time. But it's
Yeah,
pretty good. It's a very quick watch because it's a CBS 30-minute show, and so on
Hmm.
Paramount Plus it's no commercials, so each episode is like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, so you get through them really quick. um and so it's pretty decent. It's kind of funny and quirky. It's just something to watch. um what else did I watch recently? Oh, I started this other show. I started a couple shows. I started that Luther movie, EG. I got about more than halfway through it, and I just couldn't
Yeah,
do it. Like Idris Elba played the cop, and it's too London. Like I think it's
yeah,
too European for me.
yeah.
Um,
I'd agree.
like sometimes you have that European actor like Idris, who you're like, I love this guy, but then everything else around it is too much. They're
yeah,
just not good actors. So I finished Ted Lasso while I was in lockup, and Ted Lasso was good, man. I wanted more when it was done, so that was pretty cool. Um, I started this other show called Deep Fake Love. The only problem is it's one of those shows that is from like somewhere. It's one of the, it's a Latin country, right? And it's in Spanish. So you got the voiceover, and the voiceover doesn't always match up and shit. So it
I
sounds
hate that.
crazy.
I hate it. I hate it.
Um but it's a cool concept. I would love to see it like if they did one in English, where you could actually catch up and get the emotion, right? Because you miss emotion with the real emotion with voiceover, and then with this is playing all on emotion. So basically, like like EJ, let's say you and your girl went on the show, your girl would go into another house, and you're like, hey, go have a good time, blah blah blah, and they got this AI to where she might be chilling with VP, and they're talking and chatting and they're close to each other, but the AI makes it look like they're kissing or he's rubbing up on her and
Oh,
stuff
that's
like that.
wild.
And then, right, and then you're watching it from the show, and you're from like an area, and you're supposed to identify whether or not it's real or not. You know what I'm saying? At first, they don't tell
Mm.
you what's going on, so you just think it's all real. So there's so much emotion in there, and so you see their faces turning, But when you're voicing over somebody, saying something, you can never really capture it and say it the way that
Right.
that it would have been said by that person. So, but I would love to see that created in English, or if I understood Spanish, probably really good. Um, what else did I watch? While I was in there.
There's another show that just came out with our girl Zoe Saldana called Lioness. VP might hate it, but it's basically she's a special ops CIA agent, and the first two episodes are pretty action packed. But that's Paramount Plus has some good violent shows. I will say that the show is pretty violent and it looks like it could be a little raw, so it might be a good little watch.
Yeah, I
But
did see that
VP
pop
might
up
hate
when I logged in.
the military aspect of it. Like I don't know how accurate it's gonna be for him, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, most shows that do military stuff are inaccurate. So kind of is what it is.
I went back and watched About Last Night again. I actually like Kevin Hart in that movie.
What movie?
Um,
I
About
don't
Last
remember that
Night
one.
Oh, okay.
with Kevin Hart and I forget the other actor's name. The green eye guy.
I
That's
don't.
always
Oh, Michael
green.
Ealy.
Michael Ealy. Michael Ealy's in it, and it's pretty good. So I went back and watched that again while I was in there. Um, that was really it, man. I mean, I perused and went through and started a bunch of other stuff, but didn't watch it. It was trash. You know how I do. I give it an episode. I give it about 7 minutes, and then I'm done.
Yeah, yeah.
Um.
I started to watch The Outlaws. Didn't finish it, and me and my girl started watching They Clone
Oh, I did
Tyrone, which
watch
is
Outlaws,
actually yeah. They Clone Tyrone is actually pretty
and
good.
I
We
watched
we
that
have
too.
yeah we haven't been able to finish it because
That
she
shit's
be falling
stupid,
asleep,
yo.
but I
That
like
shit's
it though.
stupid.
I like it as one of them. It's one of them films where sci-fi aspect is in there, and they play on a lot of social undertones. That shit was funny though. It had me laughing. Jimmy Fox was funny in that joint. I gotta finish it though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just don't. Yeah, I don't like the way they portray like hood black people, like in some of these show
Yeah, I thought that
movies.
was a little over the top. I thought it was a
Yeah,
little over the top. I think John Boyega's character was a little over the top for me. I think he overacted, but
yeah, yeah. But I did watch Outlaws too. Um, and it was
yeah,
okay. It's
Yeah.
also all over the place, all over the place. Little OD, little fake, but so when you go into it thinking that and expecting that, it's not horrible.
right.
Um,
Right.
but other than that, I'm ready for some football. Definitely got to start prepping for this fantasy week, fantasy drafts and stuff,
Yep.
Yeah,
and
football starting this week. Yeah.
keep watching, man. Keep watching. Anything else going on?
Last night, Terrence Crawford beat Errol Spence, beat the hell out of
Oh
him.
yeah,
Shout out to Bud. Shout out to Bud, winning me some money on that one. But
wasn't there a
that
big UFC fight last night too? Did
yeah,
Perrier win? Perrier
Justin
Pereira?
Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, I believe.
Same
I don't know
difference.
who won. I don't know who won because I wasn't watching the UFC. Dana White trying to fucking compete with boxing last night, lost miserably, lost
Yeah.
horribly.
Yeah, that was a big fight. That was a huge fight to try and compete with. He should have moved his event.
Yeah. Okay. So Poirier beat Gaethje by TKO KO, and I actually saw a clip of it. It was like a head kick.
Mm,
But other than that, it wasn't a really. I mean, you got some guys on the card. Alex Pereira lost, which is very impactful because I don't think he's going to be able to fight. Um, what's the other Adesanya now because he lost that
He
fight.
lost.
And yeah, Alex Pereira lost to Jim Blachowicz, who
Hmm.
is another light heavyweight guy. So I think that was kind of his fight to kind of build back to say he could fight Adesanya again, but he lost. So uh, Derek Lewis won. Everyone else on the card, if you're not really into it, you're not really gonna know him. So and they had a
Yeah,
lot of canceled fights too. So yeah,
niggas that make weight.
yeah, make weight, injury, all type of stuff. The UFC has that happen a lot.
Yeah,
So yeah, shout out
drugs.
to Bud Crawford.
Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
out to
yeah.
Bud Crawford, undisputed
That
champ.
was an it was an impressive. Also first man to be undisputed in two weight classes.
Yep,
So
yep. Second boxer ever to do it. First man. Clarissa Shields is the first boxer to ever do it, but Bud
mhm.
is the second.
But that was an impressive performance because Errol Spence is a good boxer. It's not like he's trash.
Hmm.
So for him to get made to look bad like that, says something. For
Bud
Crawford.
is
Crawford,
different.
yeah, he looked good last night. No, I mean pause. Um, all right, man. I don't have anything else. If you guys don't have anything else, well wishes to everyone that ended up sick this week, myself included, but more so for the people that really were sick, like Mitch McConnell, Bronny James, Gilly, who lost his kid, like, all them people. Best wishes to them. Hopefully everything goes well there.
Yep.
And like we always do at this time, I'll hand it off to the VP to get us up out of here.
Hey everybody, as always, man, don't forget to make that phone call, send a text message, reach out to your people, let them know you're thinking about them. Tomorrow's not promised nobody, even as you think that they're as healthy as possible. Like Steve just brought up the point where Bronny James, young, healthy young man who goes into cardiac arrest out of nowhere. So, reach out to folks if you need to talk to them, just because you never know what's going on in somebody's life or what could happen to them. So, no regrets on that front. Um, with that said, we definitely appreciate everybody who tapped in with us today for this week's episode of the Castworthy Podcast. For folks who listen live, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us as we chat about things. For the folks who will listen once the episode posts, we appreciate you taking that time as well. While you're listening, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Help us grow the audience of the podcast. We very much appreciate it. You also can find the podcast platform on all podcasting platforms by searching at Castworthy. You can also find us on any of our social media by searching at Castworthy on Instagram. It's at Castworthy_podcast. And like I said, again, just one more time, we definitely appreciate you guys for rocking with us while we talk about everything that's happening. One other thing we didn't get to mention real quick on the pod, just want to give a shout out to Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden for making a rule that is going to have airlines make restrooms that are wheelchair accessible. As a person who is a wheelchair user and has flown, the things that I have to go through to make sure I don't have to use the bathroom on a flight is crazy. And I shouldn't have to put myself through that kind of stuff just so I can avoid using the bathroom on a flight. So I definitely appreciate them doing that, and I guess watch this space on that front. Anyway, with that being said, we appreciate you guys. We love you. We'll see you next week with another fresh episode of the Cast Ready Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We out. We love you. Peace.